what is the best Audi SUV or which Audi SUV is fitting best to you? Let's find out together when we compare Audi Q2 versus Q3 versus Q4 versus Q5 versus Q6 versus Q7 versus Q8 versus Q8 e-tron. The Q4, Q6 and Q8 e-tron are the electric models, whereas the others are the combustion engine models. We have Q7 and Q8 as a sporty S version in a direct comparison, and also the Q8 facelift with slight changes and in a different environment, so you can directly compare pre and post facelift. Exciting also to compare the large EVs now, the newer Q6 and the existing Q8 e-tron. So which Audi SUV would you pick and why? Tell me in the comments later on after you have watched this comparison episode. Let's go!
In the front, the Audi Q2 with this facelift has a flatter front grille, single frame, really wide for a rather small vehicle, the small crossover of small SUV. Then we also see here the new design style for the inside of the grille, here with the bright frame around. There are also different stylings available, also new styling in the lower bumper right there, so a little bit more modern this look. LED headlamps are now standard. Optional matrix LED, you can also see them right here. So this car does have some options, yes, but really not all that are available. We also give you a detailed tour then throughout the options. This one also not the S-Line, so the base look, so to speak, but you also can get a sportier S-Line look if you like. When you have the matrix LED option, you also receive the cascading turning indicators here already in the front. Pretty spectacular. The length is at 4.21 meters, 13'8" or 166 inches. That's 2 centimeters longer than before because of the new spoilers that are a little bit sportier even in the base version. Here we have the base 17-inch wheels, the smallest ones available. Therefore it looks a little bit more balloonish, but I think it already works. Visually wise it's okay. But 19-inch is also optionally possible, so 17, 18, 19-inch, then you have a more menacing look, but of course also maybe some comfort losses, so this one here is best for comfort. As for suspension, you can either get a base suspension, that's also in here, then you get a fixed sport suspension, minus 10 millimeters, or the adaptive suspension. The adaptive suspension gives you the best comfort. However, if you stick with the smaller wheels, you can also stick with the base suspension, because then you have, enough dampening comfort and can also save some money. In the rear, a typical hatch style here from this Volkswagen AG MQB platform, which the Audi Q2 is also based on. Modern tail lamp signature right here, and then with this facelift, get a new, more modern spoiler in the lower part, contrasting style. Of course, different styles depending on the trim available. Also with this more sporty graphic right here, but this is all closed, of course. As for exhaust, that's cool actually, no fake exhaust graphic, just this crossover look right here and the real exhaust then underneath. So we see it also works without fake exhaust. Why not? So overall, yeah, this is a small and not too expensive vehicle considering Audi prices, but then again you already get a very unique design. And also for the tail lamps, when you have the matrix back here, the turning indicators in a cascading style. And now the other end, basically the high trim version. This here, the S-Line, sportier design elements. Also the Edition 1 launch model here with black Audi rings, black frame around, quattro citations, and a wider graphic here in the lower end. This is not a real air intake, just a fake graphic, so to speak. And also this aero gray color has kind of a matte scheme, but it's not a real matte color. But very interesting to see it, how the design really differs from the low trim to the high trim. This, of course, has a more menacing look, also with the biggest 19-inch wheels, the biggest one that are available. And also in the rear then with the sportier contrast graphic in black. Which one do you like best? Is it too much for a Q2, or would you rather go for a high trim model? Of course, you also have to think about the price, that between our low spec model and the high spec model here, with all the extras included and so on, is easily about 15,000 euros or dollars difference. Key fob, rather traditional, but good in the quality. You can still fold out the real deal. Door closing sound is solid. Then inside the doors right here, this is somewhat hard pack indeed, so that's a little bit let off, but this interesting material right here, and also then a little bit softer at the armrest, and good here Clicking sounds for the window levers, also galvanized, that's really nice. Reasonable door pockets. And then this is here also not highest trim as for the interior spec, but a nice round styling for the steering wheel here, also with a pretty sporty styling right here. Round air vents, you close open them here and also here with nice clicking sounds. This one then is soft touch here on the top part, and here bright design element also with a structure you can really feel, and also old school, rather old school for the light switches, and I really like it. This is like straightforward, exactly what you want to do or want to have. It's perfectly fine. Sooner leads to the instruments and so on. These here are the optional digital instruments, virtual cockpit. Then seats, there are base fabric seats available. These here are the sport seats, so they are a little bit sporty as for the side bolstering, also in the upper area. They look also cooler and they offer you decent comfort, and are also available here in pure fabric. This is really cool, keeps you cool in summer and warm in winter, and this is a highly durable but yet at the same breathable fabric, so I'm really satisfied with these. Shoe tap first to get inside, and these sport seats you really deliver you decent comfort. They're good also for tall people. 1.86 meters or 6'1", enough headroom. There's also an optional panoramic roof available. But here the seating comfort is really good. You don't have the highest SUV type feeling. It's more like between SUV and crossover, but already feels more upright than in a normal small or compact size vehicle. So this rather here the compact segment. So I'm really happy with these seats. So you can also go for the sport seat form. By the way, also available with a microfiber share, for example. Then manual control of the steering wheel, good smooth process, and really goes wide up and down and towards you and so on. So although it's not the biggest car, you can already find a very decent position right here. You can pump it all up, y'all, like this. And also then manual control here, front and back. There are also electric seats available, but I mean, as I said, it's cool that we can also show you a car that does not have everything. And for what it offers here, already actually quite decent. So I'm really happy with the front cockpit here. Interior overview with a rather classic styling, soft touch dashboard, and here more round vents again. Nice clicking sounds and so on. Audi badge right here. It's also an interesting structure, and once again, all the buttons are so well processed. You have the acoustic feedback here, for example, for the drive select, which will have more, more effect when you have the adaptive suspension, because then the suspension adapts to the drive modes. Then a classic AC unit right here. My favorite one, also with the clicking sounds once again, and so straightforward to use. The central screen here, it cannot be pulled in, it's just on and off, but there's like an off function at least available. Either 7-inch smaller one or this one here, the 8.3-inch optional, both with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto support. And on the left side you start with analog gauges, and an optional these 12.3-inch digital instruments, virtual cockpit, zoom more details to both of the screens. Steering wheel here is now when you have the assistant systems package, also capacitive, that you just touch the steering wheel and then the car knows you're still there for the assistant systems. Right side here with the volume control, left side to control the digital instruments, and everything is really straightforward how to use this vehicle. That's what I like. It's a more old school approach, but honestly, the more old school approach is sometimes even better. The key here still to be put in the steering column here in the classic style, in this case then here. Lower part, smartphone connection, USB-A. The place to put your smartphone is a little bit, I don't know, that's maybe a little bit doubtful, but you could also put out these cup holes and then put it in here. This would be possible, but then you have no cup holders left, so have to decide about that. Then manual volume control in the lower area. Here today with the manual transmission. Of course, you can also get automatic gearboxes for this vehicle with the S-tronic. And then this lower control knob here, MMI, also again with the clicking sounds, because there's still no touchscreen for this vehicle, but you can control it very well while driving. So can argue pro and con definitely, and some hotkeys. And then we also have this armrest right here, nice fabric cover, well attached and underneath. There's more USB-A charging here for a second smartphone, for example. But there's also an inductive charging pad underneath. The virtual cockpit here, crystal clear view, really cool. Details to the screen right here. See here, this would be again more relevant when you have the S-tronic dual clutch transmission for the shifting characteristic, or also then for the adaptive suspension. And that main menu is actually quite easily done. Now to the rear compartments. Here we go. Also hard pack right here, but softer than right there. And you can see the same fabric styling also for the rear seats, and looks actually quite good. Nothing too fancy, but also nice. Again, this feels really good from the surface as well. And let's see what about the legroom we have right here. It's not too long, this vehicle, but it exactly fits when I'm also driving here in the front. Again, 1.86 meters or 6'1". And headroom wise, also, yeah, really fits quite well. You can even put a hand over my head. That's still possible. So it works for 4 tall adults. Of course, not abundance of space, but typical basically for the compact segment. Isofix at the outside. There's no, armrest here, but on the middle part you could theoretically also sit. And yeah, that gets really close for the leg stand. So maybe just for emergency situations, also with the headroom, it gets really close. And if someone would be next to me, yeah, that's really close. But for the outside parts, it's no problem. And 12-volt power supply here in the rear and the middle part. This is more a basic building style here. But overall, I think we really see in this car that has a very solid build quality and more, these classic solutions with a lot of knobs and buttons and so on. And since meanwhile we have so many more modern cars with all the touchscreen all over the place, this is actually more a welcoming change once again. Now to the trunk. We also have the manual trunk here today, but it's just fine. 405 liters up to 1050 liters. That's in the maximum setup. I already did the 2/3 split here, 2/3, 1/3. Underneath you have more space, for example, also for a replacement tire. And actually quite square dimensions. I can also put a backpack here inside. You can see also fits in just here in the upright way. And then also some measures. Like this, the normal trunk length is just under 80 centimeters, and the width here, right here, yeah, is about a meter, so that's actually quite okay. And the height up to the cover would be about, just under 45 centimeters, and the total height, is just under 70 centimeters. And last one missing here, the absolute length to the seat as I would be seating. We have all the way folded flat, and this is about 1.50 meters. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Audi Q2 in this update here, and we're driving the 1-liter TSI 3-cylinder engine, front-wheel drive only, 110 horsepower, so it's the base entry-level engine. Also then with the manual gearbox, so the most base spec you can get. And the one thing was, you guys told us, hey, try to show some more basic vehicles. Most of the time the manufacturers try to show all they've got. You can also understand that. But then we told Audi, hey, some of our viewers really want to see more, more realistic vehicles. And they said, yeah, okay, we try to change that and also offer that to you. So this is how feedback works. You tell us something, we can go to the manufacturers, and that's becoming reality then. So yeah, that's why you're also part here of our community. So first of all, some city driving here. Back to the second gear. Great progressive steering. The Audi Q2 comes standard with progressive steering. What does it mean? So you can keep your hands on the steering wheel all the time, especially when you have the automatic gearbox, so you don't have to grab around, because here slalom style is really good. Really precise, no dead angle area, so everything is directly transported to the road. And yet at the same time, if you park in and out, you never have to turn it 3 times around. Progressive means that it also increases the feedback and is a really cool characteristic. It feels natural, but at the same time, it's just very comfortable to steer this car around. That's really cool. The base suspension is also just fine, especially in combination with the 17-inch wheels. So that's soft enough, and it is not then adaptive reacting to situations, but the car still remains upright, and it's also most comfortable then as for the base suspension setup with the 17-inch wheels. That's no problem. So you can also really go with this setup if you want to save some money, no problem at all. If you want bigger wheels, then you could go for the adaptive suspension. The adaptive suspension gives you better variety between sportiness and comfort than depending on the driving mode. And in general also gives you more comfort also in the base comfort mode. And then you could, for example, also go with 18-inch wheels without losing too much comfort. That works. Here again, see, don't have to turn the steering wheel that much when being in this roundabout. Getting out, once again, a sporty driving feeling. So it is somewhat fun also to drive this vehicle. It will be a little bit more fun when you go, for example, adaptive suspension and put it to the sports mode. Then you can have some, a sportier driving moment for that. Of course, also the more powerful engines will be a little bit more fun to drive, but when you rather roll, for example, and drive it calmly, you can also live with the small engine. We start with city driving here, we head out to the motorway right now to show also some more of the acceleration of this vehicle, if this small engine is enough then for these situations. It is a turbo, so you can always get something more out of this turbocharger than when you rev it up. Yeah, and manual gearbox is also just fine, so there's not too much resistance, but yet at the same time you get a feedback when putting in the gears. The shifting lever also sticks out enough that you don't have to, reach down too far or something. So overall, I think a very comfortable setup. And again, the straightforward user interface. It's not the newest one, but Michelle and I really agreed that it's cool. We have so many cars now which are super fancy, info touchscreen here, touchscreen there. And we also appreciate new technologies, but only if they're really helpful. For example, a capacitive steering wheel, which is now integrated when you have the assistance system package here, is good. Then you don't have like these false positives, so the car knows when you touch a steering wheel and doesn't say like, oh, you're not doing anything anymore, I have to go back from this level 2 autonomous driving mode. So this like technology advancement, but sometimes when you make the user interface more complicated, that's not really like technological progress. And here, controlling the temperature while driving is just so easy and straightforward, and that's what we really appreciate. Or when I control these cool digital instruments while driving with the manual buttons, that's a good interface. We have technology, yes, but at the same time we have something which is adapted to the human body, and the human body does not react to something that doesn't give you like a real feedback or something. Here again, good sporty fun. Now accelerating out a little bit, second gear, put in third gear. The 3-cylinder engine actually sounds quite good. So sometimes it sounds sportier than the 4-cylinder engine. Yeah, why not? Of course, I would, when I can spend a little bit more money, rather go for the 4-cylinder, because then you can keep it at lower RPMs. For the long-term durability, that might be a better choice than when you have an engine that has a little bit higher displacement figure, but you keep it at lower RPMs, for example, then it's actually a little bit more suitable than keeping with the low displacement and keep it at high RPMs. It's just more stress to the engine. And now, let's drop it behind a little bit, show you something of acceleration, 50 to 100. Let's go. Plop, that's it. So you see, need to push it really. There's not much happening, so especially when you have these situations where you need to accelerate on the motorway, then you do lack some power with this small engine. So if you predominantly think about this vehicle as a city vehicle, getting from A to B to C to D inside the city, it's no problem. You can also go with a base spec engine. If you have more autobahn, more motorway share in that, then you should rather think about going for the bigger engine, at least the 1.5 TSI 4-cylinder. And if you want to have some more sporty fun, and if you can of course also afford that, then rather go even for the 2-liter turbo petrol engine. If a diesel makes sense here for this small vehicle, only when you have like a high mileage per year. But then the question is if that's then like the right vehicle segment for you. But I mean, it is decently comfortable. So in the front, you wouldn't say like, oh, this is like a small car, therefore I don't have enough comfort in the front. I think it's really comfortable. These sport seats here with the fabric surface are super comfortable. Michelle also agrees. And we have like even sometimes better comfort here than we had in like some very big premium luxury cars or so. So these seats are absolutely excellent. I can just stress it again. And sometimes just the seat form and the seat surface has so much to do with the overall comfort that the car is offering. And also the whole seating position set up here is actually pretty cool. So now some motorway situations. First of all, another acceleration where we're already at speed. So I was in the second gear before, now third gear, just like this 70 to 80, third gear. Drop, that's it, already 85, using the speed again. So you see, there's no explosive acceleration coming right here. You feel very well when also being here in these traffic situations. Blind spot monitor is right here. So, there's the German Blitzer. So that's the speed camera. Always have to watch out for these. The blind spot monitor very well integrated. If you have, there are different assistance systems packages. They try to simplify now a little bit. Still, the Audi configurator is so complicated. I mean, look at Tesla. They make it just easy as for configuring a car. Blind spot monitor is really cool. Assistance systems upgrades here majorly. You can set the cruise control right here. In this case here, this is also just a normal cruise control, but you can of course also get an adaptive cruise control for this vehicle depending on the assistance systems packages. And then updated that you have like the, not only longitudinal but also, the cross semi-autonomous function that it keeps you in the lane. Activate or deactivate it right here, and then depending on the grade, it keeps you here actively or less actively in the lane. Here this was reacting quite late, but sometimes also good because you don't have so much interference. And there again, blind spot monitor, and if you put the turning indicator, then it also flashes as an additional warning, so that's also well done. So, and then again, the capacitive steering wheel as an updated function for this semi-autonomous driving function. Here now at higher speeds, so we're now 1 kilometers. Let's put it like to a reasonable autobahn speed, like to. And then people are not driving fast enough already. Welcome to Germany. We need to go to the left lane right there then to drive a little bit faster. Okay, we're at this. Is it A6 all road? Guess so. Yeah, it is. So, yeah, go for that, go for that. Fourth gear racing Audi Q2. Yeah. So now about 130 kilometers an hour, so like 80 miles an hour, and you still hear and feel it's reasonable silent in here. So for a compact segment vehicle, it's a good noise insulation. So also happy with that. If you put in 6th gear, you can rather than also rely on low fuel consumption. And I mean, so far this was mixed with acceleration and so on, so we're a little bit higher right there. But if I reset it now, for example, then I can also tell you what is like the minimum fuel consumption. And this is always good to know what we have as a result when we just put it, to cruise control on the motorway and so on. Maybe accelerate a little bit, because here with the small displacement engine and small horsepower, you can score really low fuel consumption when you keep it low on the RPMs, but yet at the same time the span is very wide, so when you exceed, or stress the engine and really rev it up, then the consumption goes really high. So that's also sometimes that the bigger engines not necessarily consume more fuel. It really depends on, here in the 1.5 TSI, for example, they also have cylinder on demand technology, that 2 cylinders are being shut off when they're not being used. So these technologies also, for example, help there once again. Set here the cruise control again. But again, here this is not the adaptive one, otherwise the distance to the car in front of us would be kept. But this is also the case then when we not have the highest spec vehicle. So although we have a small car, we feel quite comfortable here on the motorway. This is also not that often the case. So this Audi Q2 definitely gives you a good compromise. It's a car where you can do most things already with. You can fit 4 tall Ls in, you feel at home in the city. You can all drive on the motorway and have a decent comfort. That's also cool because of the upright seating position. It gives you a good noise insulation already. The engine, again, for the motorway, it's a little bit underpowered, I think. For the city, it will be enough. The 1.5 TSI might then be a good compromise between small and big. And when you rather let it roll and swim, so to speak, in traffic, you can score like some 5 or 6 liters in 1 kilometer, which would be then around the 40 mpg regions. That's possible, but then again, when you rather push it, then it would go a little bit higher. But I think this, 6 liters or 40 mpg plus something is a realistic figure you can reach when you drive this car, at least in a rather calm way. So overall, I think the facelift does not change too much here with the overall driving feeling of the vehicle. It's a very, very good all-rounder car, definitely. And considering Audi prices, one of the best price performance cars that Audi is offering here. And definitely also explains why this small SUV segment is still surging. I'm glad you joined us here for a full review of the Audi Q3 Sportback. I'm going to take you on a tour on the exterior, interior, and today a very fun driving experience here in the Black Forest. Here the S-Line package with a lot of sporty contrast, lower part, and also those silver contrast right there. So beautiful job, I think. And also has those special bright accentuations inside the honeycomb structure of the front grille. Turbo blue, yes, great color here for today. A real Thomas blue, a bright, strong blue, as we call it here on Autogefühl. Then those headlamps, they come LED as standard. Different trims available. The second trim already offers those turning indicators, which are in this cascading style. And those ones here are the optional matrix LED. Other than that, you see here the front accentuations right there. So S-Line package, as I said, overall a very, very sporty stance already for a small SUV. 4 meters 50, 14 foot 8 or 177 inches is the length of the Q3 Sportback. That's 2 centimeters longer than the normal Q3, which, continues like that. But that's just, overhang from the spoilers. But it looks a little bit longer because it's a little bit flatter. So about 3 centimeters flatter here in this whole roofline. And then of course it's falling down right there, even more like all those SUV coupes as they are called. 17 to maximum 20-inch wheels. Those ones are the biggest 20-inch wheels. Then with those contrasting wheel arches, but there's not black plastic. You could see it's also painted then in black. Very interesting. S-Line badge. Then wow, this turbo blue color looks amazing. And this one here also has this sporty stance right there. If you compare it to the normal, the mobile phone is still in the vehicle, the car says on the inside, because I closed the car here with keyless entry. That way you open it again. So I think a very beautiful stance on the road here. I think it works quite well. It's not too dramatic. But then here, those stronger shoulders, very interesting. And always some information about the suspension. You start with a sport suspension, actually, with the Q3 Sportback. But then you can opt in, just without extra price, to the normal suspension, which we could recommend. Or if you can spend the money, to the adaptive suspension, then you have a little bit more variety and comfort. We also have that today to test for you. I definitely wanted to show you the 3/4 rear perspective. This is really impressive. And I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of SUV coupes or those cut-off SUVs, but I think in this case it really works very well design-wise. Or what's your take on that? Also with the S-Line, again, sporty accentuations, especially right here with this diffuser style and very modern LED signature in the rear. And by the way, talking about braking, the autonomous emergency brake is standard equipment, and then optional more assistance systems like the ACC, adaptive cruise control, and also blind spot monitor and so on. We'll also test those systems here today in the driving test. And the straight rear perspective for you, definitely this is design object, so the main reason to go for the Q3 Sportback and not for the normal Q3 is design. Yes, everyone knows there will be a little bit less space on the interior. How much? We will soon find out. And by the way, the 35 TFSI 35, it stands for nothing. They just put those levels. Of course, higher numbers means more power and lower. But it doesn't make any logical sense. And I'm always confused myself. And here in our long format, we always like to show you different variations, different colors. Here, this one is called Myth Black or Mythos Schwarz. That would be the one in German. And this here also together with this first edition that you also have the black Audi rings and the black accentuations. Overall, really a dark style. And especially here in this rear three-quarter perspective, it looks really menacing here as the Q3 Sportback. This one also with 20-inch wheels, but in a different style. So, what would be your pick as for the color? For me, of course, the turbo blue. And we also have two more colors in our studio episode. The orange one and the white car. So if you're even more interested in colors and trims, we will always link interesting other or fitting episodes in the video description and in the pinned comment. So if you're finished with this review here, also tune in to more. And this one here, by the way, is the 45 TFSI, so this is the strongest petrol engine so far, also with all-wheel drive. We will also compare this one to the smaller 1.5 liter petrol engine today here. So first the small petrol engine, later the bigger one. And what we can also see at the rear, this one is the first new Audi without any fake exhaust. You got this diffuser style here with the S-line, but there are no fake exhaust anymore. So big step forward, and I think everyone here agrees that fake exhaust are not really, a good thing. So here, a rather clean design, I think. Thumbs up. All four-cylinder engines here, and front-wheel drive for the smaller ones, all-wheel drive for the bigger ones. Look at that one here. This one is the new 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine with 150 horsepower and a mild hybrid system. So coasting or sailing between 40 and 160 kilometers an hour, for example, and an electric boost, 10 seconds, 12 horsepower, very interesting. 6-speed manual gearbox, front-wheel drive, or optional the 7-speed DSG, the S-tronic. Then there is a 2-liter turbo petrol engine with 190 horsepower or 230. Had the 230 one all with the Q3 review, check out that one. Always made it to a 7-speed DCT or S-tronic as they call it, and all-wheel drive. And then a diesel 2-liter, 2 horsepower specs, 150 or 190. Door closing sound. Ah, nice, as Brian would say. Best greetings to our reporter Brian. So here, let's say a little bit of soft touch. It's not super hard pack, but it's not soft as well. It's like something in between. But this is nice. This reverse door handle. It's actually also quite practical. Then nice quality also from the window levers. And nice Alcantara inserts right there. Huge inner door pockets. This is very practical. Optional Bang & Olufsen sound system. It's really worth it in this case. It's a great optional sound system. We really love the sound. S-Line entry badge in the lower part. Then here, because we also have the S-Line interior. Then soon more to all the digital instruments and so on. This one is a sporty steering wheel with a flat bottom. Then a lot of black piano lacquer is being used. That they are not, my favorite, but can't be everything in my favorite. Also not those animal skin seats. They cost a lot of extra money and really warm in summer times and cold in winter times. But I can tell you, there are, at least in Europe, fabric seats available, both in normal form. And then this one is a sport seat, so 2 seat forms, normal and sport seats. And for both, you can get it all in fabric. And for this seats, you could also get more Alcantara. It's a mixing of Alcantara, leatherette, and some animal parts. But this one here is the one with the most animal parts. But overall, Audi here in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback already reduced the amounts of animal skin parts. Recently seen also the Porsche Taycan review where they also have one animal-free interior. So even if some people still criticize me for feeling with animals, sorry, it's coming. So then you can put the steering wheel in and out and up and down. And a nice cozy position here. So it's not a super high SUV, but also not a somewhat more low crossover, something in between. 1.86 or 6'1", and without the panoramic roof, you can get a lot of headroom right there. So you can get a cozy seating position here. Also as a tall driver, this front part here is manually, just longer or shorter, and here also electric seats. But again, one problem is so many options, so many extras. Configuring this car is pain in the and the price always goes up. By the way, the Sportback here is about 2,500 euros more expensive than normal Q3. It has some more extra or like standard equipment than the other one, but you know, still it will be a little bit more expensive. Interior overview. First of all, a very clean layout and interesting here with the Alcantara dash and an additional Audi logo. Yeah, a lot of black panel lacquer here again. You have to clean this all over the place, definitely. And the sporty steering wheel, but could be a little bit smaller, maybe. Right side for the volume control, left side to control the digital instruments right there. By the way, if you see the check engine light, that's always the case when the ignition is on. It will just fade out when you turn on the engine actually. Soft touch here at the top of the dashboard, and then there will be different screen layouts available. It starts here with 8.8, a smaller one. Optional this, 10.1 inch. And on the left side, always digital instruments, but it starts with a 10.25 inch and then optional 12.3 inch. Come on, why don't you just put this one and that's it? Two different sizes of digital instruments? Seriously? Yeah. But soon more deals to this top setup. Here, this one here still has my favorite climate unit. Clicking sound and nice LED visualization and easy to control it while driving, and a volume knob in the lower part. Drive select right here. Soon talking more about the drive modes. And the lower part you have an inductive charging pad. That's cool because you now also have wireless Apple CarPlay. Still also available with cable connection. For example, right side here, USB-C now and the classic USB, both are available in the front. Then you have the automatic shifting lever. Below that, adaptive cup holders, they do a good job. And then there's this armrest, which is well attached and some more space underneath. So overall, the offering of space in the interior in the front here is quite good. And those top virtual instruments, you can change the view, have the full GPS map or have more of your driving data and so on. This whole middle console area is, by the way, turned about 10 degrees to the driver. Then now deals to the infotainment system. This is the home menu, all via touch, and there's just the touch control indeed. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth or here the Apple CarPlay. In this case, I've already connected this wirelessly. The rear, by the way, hardback top part and Alcantara inserts here and reasonable door space also. And we have somewhat the same styling here in the rear. You can always see they have a little bit less legroom than in the normal Q3. The difference is that the rear bench can be moved front and the back 15 centimeters in normal Q3 and 13 centimeters right here. So again, you lose 2 centimeters of legroom. And that means that, it directly fits here with 4 tall adults. With the normal new Q3, it was, like definitely more roomish. Yeah, maybe I could move the seat a little bit more forward. I could still drive like this or something. It's okay. You can still use this car very well. At the moment, the bench is all the way back, but you can also slide it forward like this in a 2/3, 1/3 split. And it was also quite cool. Here you can vary the angle of the seat right there. So why can it be slid all the way back? Yeah, because of the falling roofline, because everyone would hit the ceiling with the head. And here at the moment like this, it's still okay. It directly fits. So yes, you can still use this car. There's no problem. But of course you lose, this is the space where you lose some of the practicability. But overall, the seating position in the rear is still decently comfortable. With those latches, by the way, you can also completely flip the seats from here. Push it back. Isofix is at the outside of those seats each. Then we have those cup holders, which also are somewhat adaptive in the middle part. And the ski hatch. Yes, there we go. Press this one here and then like this. And yeah, it gets a little bit squeezed in right there. There's a middle tunnel and then you have some climate unit here, but nothing to adjust that much. 12-volt power supply in the lower part and yeah, pretty dark in there now. 2 more USB-C devices. Well, some disadvantages in the rear compartment, but what about the trunk? Well, first of all, the trunk liter capacity is 530 liters. That's identical to the one of the non-Sportback Q3. The reason is it's measured below this cover here and you lose the height above the cover. Yeah, so that only plays a role if you really stack it up all the way to the window. maybe for going on holiday with the whole family, then of course the normal Q3 is better. And the full with flipped seats capacity, there you have a difference of 1,400 to 1,525 liter in the normal Q3. So that's the difference then. Got some luggage set up here for you. They can still see how it fits, but I can also put it out that you have a clear view then. Like this, there is this net available. You can also put it out, but you can secure things underneath. Here, then you have the sound system underneath, or if you don't have the sound system, you could also put a replacement tire if you like. And flipping seat is not possible from here. I'll soon go all the way around. The normal length here is 93 centimeters, 94 centimeters, and the width about, a little bit less than a meter actually. And below this cover you have a height of a little bit less than 40 centimeters. Well, and now I have to go around to use those latches. I could, by the way, also move the whole thing forward. So this one would be, the maximum. And then you can see, there's a gap then here. But when you need a little bit longer trunk at some point, other than that, when you flip the seats, of course, better leave it like this. I have to go all the way around to the other side. Yeah, that takes a while then here in this vehicle. And then we can have the full flip like this. Yeah, I can push this one here a little bit further down. With electric seats, you don't have the possibility to flip the co-driver seat. So, and then, some motorcyclists on the way now. Beautiful roads. And then we got here, yes, thank you for the exhaust. Thank you. Okay, now you can hear me again. Or not. Come on, seriously? Yeah, about that. 1.70 meters, you have already seen it. And interior variation for you. You can see the Alcantara can also be bought in blue. I really love it. It looks so amazing. I'm just not sure yet, in contrast to the whole black interior. I mean, you got it here as well, and there on the top of the, this middle dashboard, so to say, and also at the other side. What do you think about it? So I love this blue Alcantara, but I'm not quite sure yet if it's really, if it's too big of a contrast to the all-black car. Maybe it would have been better if, you got more gray elements. And we had so many questions in our initial static review. Does the Q3 Sportback also offer a panoramic roof? Yes, it does. This one here is a vehicle with one. You have this shade right there. It's a little bit shorter than in the Q3 SUV here in the Sportback. Here you can open it, and it's not only a panoramic glass roof. You can also open it like this. So let's see, how far does it open? There we go. That's it. Again, it's shorter than in the Q3 SUV. And of course, it reduces the head clearance already in the front. Here with 1.86 meters or 6.1, I still have some headroom left, yes, but it's definitely way less than if we would not have it. And how does it look like in the rear? Due to this falling roof line, it looks a little bit disturbing from the outside when a panoramic glass roof is opened, doesn't it? And then the blue Alcantara is also at the inside of the rear doors. And now let's see if we get here in the rear. What about the head clearance? So you see, it does end already right here. So indeed, it doesn't make a big difference than in the rear headroom. It's again close as in the other version, but you can surely do that. So it would be more of a problem if it would be continued all the way. But probably Audi designers or engineers said, yeah, if we would continue that one all the way, first of all, it's too curved, this roof, and then it would not be possible to sit here in the rear with the head clearance. So yeah, it's surely an option you can go for. Again, it looks really strange from the exterior then when it's open, but it might be a lot of fun to drive with it with open top. But always remind yourself, such a panoramic roof is also let's say a weak part with the car, as insulation, water, noises, rattling noises. I remember owning a car with a panoramic roof, and after a while it got some rattling noises, and then you have maybe apply some lubricants or something that they work again. Yeah, but on the other hand, I really enjoy open top driving, especially convertibles, and that's then sometimes a compromise when you cannot go for a convertible but still want some fresh air. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Audi Q3 Sportback, here with the 1.5 liter TSI turbo petrol engine, 7-speed dual clutch transmission. S-tronic is their brand name for that. Alternatively, it would be a 6-speed manual gearbox, and since we are in those winding mountain corners here, we put the dynamic mode. Then the RPMs go a little bit higher. The car keeps in a rather lower gears, and we have a sportier driving fun. We have the adaptive suspension here. Remember, the sport suspension would be standard for the Q3 Sportback, but you can easily opt for the normal suspension without any extra costs. And then optional, the adaptive suspension, which is, again, adapting to the settings you have and also constantly adapting even inside those settings. And this makes a wider span of comfort and sportiness at the same time. So here in the sports mode, we have a little bit more feedback from suspension. That's good here because the roads are very well paved here at the moment. So there are, no comfort losses in this case. Then, of course, you will lose some comfort then in the sports mode when there's some bumps in the road. And the big wheels here on the car, for sporty driving, they're quite cool now. But if you want more comfort, you could also go for smaller ones. And the car feels very well balanced, also very well to control. So that's pretty cool. Now we go a little bit slower, soon we go a little bit faster again. You see also I don't have to steer that much, so this steering is very progressive, as we say here. So the more you steer, the more input there is also, and then you can keep both hands at the steering wheel all the time, especially this progressive steering together with the adaptive suspension. So now a little bit faster in acceleration. This 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine is also enough as for the performance. Now we're going a little bit faster in the corner here. Wow, that feels very nice. Pretty cool. Look at that. So how stable the car remains, and we're still talking about the SUV segment here, or at least crossover, and this is giving me fantastic feedback, fantastic feeling from the steering, and also the lane assist is not intervening. We recently had that, for example, in the Skoda Kamiq, which is of course a little bit smaller, but we had to deactivate the lane assist and when we were doing those winding corners. But here actually it maybe realizes what we're doing, and so it's not intervening at all at the moment. It's also deactivating itself partly, and wow, I'm almost feeling like we are on the Nordschleife. I'm not, exceeding any speed limit here, but that feels fantastic. And I would buy such a vehicle when I want more comfort, more higher seating position and so on, and that's the case here indeed with the car. But at the same time, sometimes you lose driving fun then maybe, like sporty driving fun with the SUVs, but here not at all. So we're in the Black Forest region here for you today, Schwarzwald, the famous German Schwarzwald, and actually the opposite side than we were in the in the area in France. So very interesting also geologically. Got to look up the history, like 65 million years ago. Everything went down and there was erosion on both sides, so it was almost 4,000 meters high, and now today it's 1,000 meters because there was like millions of years of erosion. Pretty interesting geological story here, and this is just a fantastic ride. Here now the road gets a little bit rougher. In the sports mode we also feel that a little bit more, but still pretty cool. And again, enough power, although also we are going uphill all the time. There is also this electric boost function from the small generator, about 12 horsepower when I'm really throwing it out. But it's not that you would directly realize it. Now also the recuperation function that is possible, also not that you directly realize that. Soon after this dynamic part, we'll also take this car out a little bit more on some more calmer roads and more everyday driving life experience and so on. So I can tell you more about that. At the moment, rather the fun, agile driving. And is there any difference, the Q3 and Q3 Sportback? As for that, not really. It depends on the suspension you pick. That's making most difference. Wow, look at I can really just when it's 90 degrees corner, I need to turn the steering wheel 90 degrees. That's fantastic. So what a great driving experience here. so much fun to drive this car. And I mean, it's a premium car, and it's not cheap at all, but still segment-wise. And if you think about other premium vehicles which are way more expensive, this one is still one you can use everyday driving life. As for the flexibility you have, and it's really a lot of fun. So good suspension feedback, nice steering. This is really a very flawless experience. The sport seats are also keeping us tight. It's good that we have a little bit more support. It would be even better if those were the fabric or Alcantara surfaces, because here on the animal skin you slide around a little bit more. Wow. I could keep you on camera here, guys, all day, especially on those beautiful roads here. I hope you're really enjoying that together with me as we do. Olga, how are you feeling?
Yeah, fine.
Olga's good. That's always a good sign, and always asking my co-driver. And we always call the guy next to me co-driver, because that's rally style, So yeah, way to go. So much fun here. I wouldn't have expected it in a Q3 SUV. I mean, yes, we have driven the Q3 SUV before, then here the Sportback, again, similar. Of course, you maybe somehow feel a little bit sportier, because you just know, like, from the, design exterior-wise. And yes, the roofline is a little bit lower, so maybe that's a very subtle, subjective feeling that accounts for that. And of course, wow, this turbo blue. I mean, when you look at that, you see it in the mirrors. When you look to the front, on the front hood, you see that it has this turbo blue color. Or maybe this screen is flickering, by the way, in the camera. I'm not sure. Put that off now. So it's not flickering in real life. Again, this one is just flickering on camera then, maybe. Wow. By the way, the brakes now, so going from 90 to 60. Not really hammering it through, but just, that was already 40. So good braking performance, even downhill. And again, this car gives you such a controlled handling experience. We know the platform already from the Volkswagen AG. It is very well known, but it really gives you a great balance. And well, if you have an all-wheel drive version of the Q3 or Q3 Sportback, also doesn't change too much. It's more that the higher horsepower figures are usually combined then with automatic gearbox and all-wheel drive, and the lower horsepower figures are not. And then it's a front-wheel drive platform, of course. This doesn't make the biggest difference. When it's maybe slippery on winter times, you might need an all-wheel drive version, but that shouldn't be the main deciding factor when doing your purchase. This 1.5 definitely interesting with the new MHEV technology, and also sufficient power. Of course, doesn't mean that you have to go for this one, not for the 2-liter one. But sticking with the little bit smaller engines also saves you some money in the entry price. So I think, in this turbo blue exterior with the 1.5 petrol, that should be a pretty decent pick for this car. Against some slalom. Holger's like, but I mean, it's still quite okay, especially in dynamic mode. If we would compare that here to the normal auto mode, for example, let's see how that one plays out. Yeah, maybe shakes a little bit more, but still, even in the normal auto mode, you can drive this vehicle very well also in a dynamic fashion. So the first sporty dynamic impression here from driving, I mean, also for this segment, it's fantastic. And I would even say that this is, definitely segment leading. Maybe together with one or two other cars or so on. We had a great driving experience in the BMW X2 M35i. Yeah, that's a little bit complicated as for name. That was also pretty amazing as for driving experience, for example. So you should also check out that review, definitely. So the X2 was also great in driving, especially also with the adaptive suspension. They are even more that the pure sport suspension is too stiff. But here again, such a flawless experience with this vehicle.
I feel always safe.
Yeah, Holger feels safe, and that's, of course, as a co-driver, the most important thing. I mean, I can always hold onto the steering wheel. I know where the road is going. I feel it before, and when the co-driver feels safe, then that's an even better sign. Welcome to the motorway. blind spot monitor here. See, when I'm using the turning indicator, it was also flashing. Of course, you know, they have the light when the car is approaching from the rear, from the blind spot, and then even more flashing when you hit the turning indicator. So it's a definitely good safety feature, and would also be one of my favorites from this option list. I can show it once more. You know, again, just flashes constantly, and as soon as I would put the turning, yeah, a little bit too late now, when I put the turning indicator, then it's like flashing very fastly. Now to some everyday driving situations. So here at the moment, I'll accelerate out to 100 kilometers. And then I'll also set the cruise control. See a separate stalk column left next to the steering wheel. At 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour, sound insulation is quite decent, so it remains very calm and silent. The adaptive suspension is doing a great job of, you know, really keeping this car steady, so it's sporty enough, but at the same time very comfortable. If you would go here to the sports mode, then you would have actually less comfort. You feel some damages in the road a little bit more and so on. The sports mode definitely was more helpful in those winding corners earlier. Here just keep it with the auto or comfort, so that's definitely cozy. And what's also cool, when you set the cruise control and also have the lane assistant activated, so this is the highest build we have here for that, it feels very natural. There's not much annoying intervention. We sometimes have those situations where you have very annoying intervention by those lane assist systems, but not the case here. And if I tend to run off the road here, see here, car is very smoothly keeping me in the lane. Don't try this at home, kids, please. So just demo purposes here. So that was a very smooth reaction, better than the braking intervention like we know from some Mercedes models. And wow, really impressive. Traffic sign recognition also. Then the ACC can also adapt to that, for example. Let's see if the ACC does it now, but maybe it's not the highest build as for that. But overall, very convincing as for the assistant systems. Now it's showing me 70, and there's also the next speed camera approaching. And what's also very interesting, since we have those, you know, new mild hybrid systems that are evolving, this one here, the MHEV in the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine, let's go to the efficiency mode, because that makes it easier for us to trigger that mode. It does not work really when being in the cruise control mode, so you have to go out of the cruise control with short braking maneuver or something, put it a little bit bigger, and then when I'm here then in the efficiency mode and then I let off the throttle, I see the RPM drops to 0. So just rolling and coasting now, and this can save some fuel, but of course only when it makes sense. Here, when I want to keep the speed anyways, it doesn't make any sense. But if you see like, oh, like ahead there's like a traffic jam coming or something, or I'm going downhill for a longer time, and I don't want to increase the speed really, well, now maybe it could be a situation. So it runs between 40 and 160 kilometers for this, MHEV coasting here, for example. Now I see it's a new traffic sign. We're also going downhill. I don't need any acceleration. Then you can, and this MHEV system then, the small battery, keeps all the electric consumers running. And those cars are rolling computers. Meanwhile, they need a lot of electricity for whatever, also AC and so on. So this is an interesting solution. It does save 0.5 liters on 100 kilometers on paper. Will it have the very same effect in the real driving life? Not so sure about that. But what we can say is that the overall fuel consumption is somewhat decent here. Maybe because of the system, maybe not, or maybe because the engine itself is quite efficient. About 6 liters in 100 kilometers. And when you are then in those, about 40 mpg range, this is actually quite good for a car of that size and the weight and the flexibility and so on. So actually quite satisfied with that, and I think then it also doesn't make sense to go for the more expensive diesel. Maybe depends on the market, yes, but I think this fuel consumption is low enough then, especially then here with the new MHEV system, which is exclusive so far in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback with the 1.5 turbo. Very interesting. And then of course you also have this overboost or special boost function, 12 horsepower for about 10 seconds. We can try that once more here, for example. We go back to the dynamic mode, and then there's also a gear lower. Of course, we could also take an even lower gear, for example, but let's see how the kickdown works here from 50 to 100. That's it. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit too early because the instruments were lagging a little bit behind, but yeah, it almost came close. So 50 to 100 and still quite decent. So of course you don't have like a super big acceleration or something because it's a small engine, but still totally sufficient. As for the power for this one, the steering here is again quite progressive, as I told you in the more agile driving part. And indeed it proves my point also, this vehicle is something for every situation, you know. It's not too big, you can still use it in the city for finding parking spots. But it's not too small, you can still fit, you know, luggage inside, even here in the Sportback version where you just have a little bit less leg room. It drives definitely similar Q3 and Q3 Sportback, there's no big difference, it's the same wheelbase. It's more about the suspension you pick, and this adaptive suspension, definitely a recommendation if you have the extra money for that. Otherwise stay with a base suspension, because the sport suspension is too stiff for everyday driving life, you know, unless you really want that. Wheels, I do feel we have the biggest wheels mounted here. So if you want more comfort, go for smaller wheels. So the question and visuals on the outside and the comfort you have then on the inside. So the adaptive suspension is evening that out a little bit, yes. But again, you will have more comfort if you go for some smaller wheels, definitely.
Audi Q4 e-tron, mid-size electric SUV. This platform, by the way, is shared by the VW ID.4 and the Skoda Enyaq. They have some similarities, but they're also quite different. And this one is very interesting, I can promise. And also to come later in this review, SUV versus the Sportback version. Design exterior, functionality interior, and also the driving part. Rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. So we start with everything you need to know. In the front, a closed grille right here, and also in the lower part, there's a little bit of cooling, but it's adaptive on the inside. Pretty interesting. Then the Audi rings are two-dimensional because they hide the sensors behind it for adaptive cruise control and so on. Front view camera is possible. Navara blue is the color for today, but there are of course other color choices available. And interesting is, optional matrix LED lamps, we also have them right here, and the daytime running light signature can be changed from inside the vehicle, so you can already individualize your car electronically. So that Jonas could film the daytime running light signatures from the outside. I practiced on the inside using 2 fingers, so you can confirm faster. Yes, daytime running light, action. Yeah. Hey, and we have cascading turning indicators. We also find them in the rears. Actually, even a safety feature, I think, because you can just better see when someone is turning. I know you love comparisons. Here you can see the S-Line on the Sportback. Of course, you can go with the S-Line, with the colors, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Doesn't matter if SUV or Sportback, but to see the difference here, the S-Line here has this additional contrast right there. And also in the front grille, see here, these chrome-like accentuations, whereas here it's more subtle. So, normal design or S-Line, what's your pick? And by the way, colors, Navara blue and here the Giza blue. This is here 4.59 meters or 181 inches for the length, and the wheels go from 19 to 21 inch. These here, gold middle 20 inch, I think pretty cool look. Here we have painted wheel arches, but you can also get in a crossover style, for example, in painted black or so, depending on the trim level. I think the side profile, definitely very interesting, rather upright here for the SUV building style, and an interesting design line right here. You can also get the Sportback version, which is a cut-off version, a little bit more aerodynamic styling right here in this SUV coupe shape, and also a little bit better as for the wind efficiency, but it's more about the styling. Also, when we come to the interior later, not too much difference. Really about the styling, SUV or SUV coupe, which one would you actually pick? Technology-wise, very interesting that this is rear-wheel driven, the platform and the car. Also the very one we have here today, when we can pick all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, I rather tend to pick the rear-wheel drive models, you know, because of the racing, you know. And 40 e-tron is the name of the rear-wheel drive model. Before it gets out here,
light strip all the way across the vehicle. Cool design feature. So this version here, 200 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, 8.5 seconds in the acceleration figure, or you can go all-wheel drive model, one electric motor in the rear, one in the front, around 300 horsepower and 6 seconds the acceleration figure, so definitely quicker. But this one has the advantage of a smaller turning circle, and also you get out of the corners a little bit quicker. Battery sizes, either a small one, 52 kilowatt hours net, or this one here today, 77 kilowatt hours net, and then a projected range around about 400 kilometers or 250 miles. You will need that. So rear-wheel drive and big battery, that's my tip for today, and that's exactly the car I have for you. Well, I prefer the rear-wheel driven version, not only because you come a little bit sporty out of the corners, but also due to the smaller turning circle. 10.2 meters, the smallest of an Audi vehicle ever, smaller than with the Audi A1. And you can literally also see that. Disc brakes in the front and drum brakes in the rear. Same for the Enyaq and also the ID.4. And you might think, oh, well, it's 2021, drum brakes in the rear. What's that? Cost saving and so on. Well, it also has an advantage because there's then less corrosion for the disc brakes. The electric vehicles hardly ever use the rear brakes because of the recuperation. So I think actually it's a clever choice to go for drum brakes in the rear. Here now the comparison SUV versus the Sportback. You can see here the roofline is falling right there. More sensual, sportier. I think it's really well done. So at first I was thinking, more SUV, but the more I see the Sportback, I really fall in love with the coupe design right here. So really cool. As for this really agile form, Audi expects 2/3 of SUV sales, 1/3 of Sportback sales. But the question is, which one would you go for? And the rear comparison, SUV, Sportback, once again, split here with the wing, and then there's glass underneath, glass above. Just a sporty look once again for the Sportback and the SUV. I'm really looking forward to your feedback. Which do you find more beautiful? Usually I would tend to the SUV version, but here for the Q4 e-tron, I think I would meanwhile go with the Sportback. Sadly, there is no frunk. I know electric vehicle lovers love their frunks. You don't have anyone here, but it's also built in Germany, by the way, in that Zwickau plant, just where the ID.4 is being built. And recharging, 11 kilowatt AC for the bigger battery and 125 kilowatt DC. Not too much actually. And the smaller battery, but not too many people will go for the smaller battery. It's even a little bit slower in the figures. Just to mention, there will also be an entry-level version, by the way, with 170 horsepower for the small battery version. And standard suspension will just be a normal one, and then option you can go for sport suspension, or, which we have today, the adaptive suspension, which is giving you the best comfort and also more variety between sportiness and rather soft feeling. Now, towards the interior, there's the key. Simple, straightforward, nice. Then, door closing sound. Top notch, like that. And inside of the doors is somewhat just soft on the top part, not too soft, not entirely hard. And this is then entirely hard, and this again soft. So not too happy with the inside of the doors. That could be better. But here the door handles, they're actually quite cool. And also the buttons we have here, click, click. Nice clicking sounds. And the bottles here, top part and lower part. So 2 spaces for bottles, for water bottles. That's actually quite nice. In the interior right here, this new steering wheel, there's also a different one available, but this one is the shiny steering wheel because it has these flat ends, and it's really good to grab it also here on the top part when you're in a like sharp corner or something in the city. So it's really nice visually and also to handle it. However, here not too happy with the 2D Audi rings. It is some part is real metal in there, but it's it's just 2-dimensional, and I like it when it's 3-dimensional. Then look at that. The capacitive buttons on the steering wheel. You can slide or click. Also has good clicking sound, and for capacitive solutions, it's cool. But again, single individual buttons were just better. Everyone agrees to that, don't you as well? Then seats, either normal seat or a sport seat, and different services available. There are 2 different fabric seats available if you want to keep it animal free. Here, this is the mainly leatherette seat, so mainly animal free, but just here, the inside bolsters here on the lower part, this is then from animal origin, so not quite consistent. The same with the Dynamica seat. Dynamica then on the inside, so a microfiber material, and then just the outside bolsters, some animal parts. At least they're moving in the right direction, even if they're not as consistent as, for example, Tesla, or also the ID.4, you know, from Volkswagen. The sibling here is a little bit more consistent in these choices. And what else is good? They use recycling share, already here, for example, also with the microfiber seat, and even more so in the fabric seat. So they're also putting more recycling share and also more renewable energy production, for example, in the plant where this car is being produced. So steering wheel here, up and down, in and out. That's good. The Audi virtual cockpit here in this vehicle is smaller, you can see, than we used to know. Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but we just know the 12.3 inch, which is a little bit wider. That makes a better impression. But at least this one here, I think, is way cooler than the one we see in the ID.4, this really tiny thing, you know. And we'll soon also have a head-up display special, which is quite impressive. Seat ergonomics is actually decent. Electric control, and you have a good upright seating position, some SUV feeling, not as high as you might know from Audi Q5. This one then rather goes like SUV crossover direction seating wise, I think. Of course, you can put the seat a little bit higher. Best seating comfort will be with the fabric seats because it adapts to the body a little bit better. But overall, interesting seating position, really long here from the front hood, rather panoramic atmosphere, but definitely you feel at home here. And to me, the most important thing is you have one very crucial difference to the ID.4 coming up right now. And here we are with the interior overview. Left side, these 10.25 inch instruments, talked about them. On the right side, either 10.1 or this one here, 11.6. This is the bigger one. And we know this basic menu structure like this, so rather keep it with that. That's also easy. We know it from Audi, and then you can control everything here. For example, the car function, lights and vision. That's where I actually picked the exterior lighting, and here with the digital light signature. That was quite funny, definitely. Then the GPS also has a satellite view if you like. And we're in the northern part of Germany at the moment, at the German Baltic Sea. That's a very beautiful area. Just too bad it's really cold and sometimes rainy today, but beautiful here also with the whole GPS. And you see the software is also with the CPU in the background. It's fast enough. That's definitely better also than with the ID.4. And optional Sonos sound system. First time they work together with Sonos, and wow, the sound is superb, really amazing. Great depth of the sound. I can just recommend it, really cool. My favorite feature for today here, this matte wood insert. Just listen to this. Beautiful, and it doesn't collect any fingerprints. It always feels kind of warm, maybe also because of the heat of the infotainment system. So on cold days, yeah, that's awesome. Then, now my favorite feature in comparison to the ID.4, climate control. First of all, click, 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 Audi sound design for clicking buttons, and you can still manual control it while driving. That's so much easier than all the capacitive BS. Really good to have that here. That would be my number one reason to go for this one, not for the ID.4 or the Skoda Enyaq. Then drive select in the lower part. This is not that easy to reach, but I can already tell you from driving, it doesn't have the biggest effect on driving, so rather leave it on the auto mode, and then you don't need that button anyway. This is here for the passenger to swipe the volume. Yeah, don't tell your passenger, just do it from your steering wheel. And then here with the drive selector, drive mode, B mode for more recuperation, also easily switched it. And here more space like a flying console, 2 USB-C choices, and the smartphone can also go for Apple CarPlay and out in a wireless way, but I tend to keep it with the cable, old school yo. Then adaptive cup holders, it's also good from build quality. And then we have this armrest right here, well attached. Can pull it longer and also more space underneath. And here in the optional head-up display you get a lot of information, current speed, allowed speed, and also here when you should lift your foot off the throttle already, for example, because here the roundabout is about to come. And of course, one of the best things it has to offer is actually the augmented reality function. And there you see them now. They are the arrows, and here, so the top part, the arrow shows me directly the first exit of the roundabout. Here we go. By the way, if you have the smaller 10.1 inch screen here, you just have bigger bezels. The screen is a little bit smaller then. However, same CPU, same software, just the screen size differs. Yeah, that's just Audi extra price policy. And this screen, the biggest one, is only available a couple of months after sales start of this vehicle. Time code, Thomas in the back seat. Check it out. Here, some soft touch right there, but once again, hard pack here at these doors. Yeah, but at least some Sonos speakers if you have that option. So you already can see a lot of space in the rear still. It's not the longest vehicle, but since it's the EV platform, no middle tunnel also, and a lot of space on the back seats. It's making actually a quite good impression. And legroom here when I'm driving with 186 or 6.1, sufficient headroom both front and the rear, and also legroom. So very well used this space here, and also quite comfortable to sit here. It's actually good. Also in the middle part, two USB-C chargers, 12-volt power supply, and a climate control. And once again, by the way, so this is mainly leather red, so animal free, and you can see here it's really soft, feels very good. You could not tell the difference right here. More features, adaptive cup holders, that's good build quality, definitely. And then we can already fold the seats from here if you like. So is there any difference in headroom, SUV versus coupe? Let's check it out. Yeah, a little bit. So I have to now like squeeze my hand a little bit in. Yes. Yeah, indeed. So it was like this versus this approximately. So yeah, I mean it works still with 186 or 6.1. You can easily sit with tall adults. You're also in the rear of the coupe version of the Sportback. Yeah, just a little compromise, but once again, not much of a compromise. You can easily go for the Sportback, for the coupe, if you like the design better. And now the trunks, because we have both SUV and coupe directly next to each other, around 500 to 1,500 liters in the capacity. The coupe even has a little bit more, but you can hardly see a difference. And the good thing is, here usually the coupes are a little bit, smaller right here in this dimension, but it's not the case right here. You can see it's high enough. And when you directly switch here, coupe to the SUV, I mean, don't really see a big difference. Backpack, maybe pushing a little bit inside, and that's it. There's also this, nice net right here. You can secure things, and underneath there's a storage for your charging cable. And to fold the seats, you have to go around, and then you can also load the thing through. Yeah, just around the 1.80 meters then in the total length. But definitely, if you go for the SUV or the coupe, it's not design versus practicability. It's just design versus design. Woo! 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. Uphill, while raining, full throttle. Really great traction, so it was a very good acceleration test. The rear-wheel drive only model here, more than enough power. So again, considering it was an uphill acceleration, very well done. And now when we're getting on the motorway, 80 to 120 kilometers an hour, so that's a good acceleration progress. Plop, here we go. So that's again reasonable. Around 8 seconds is the official acceleration figure, and 6 seconds something the all-wheel drive version. So it's 200 versus 300 horsepower. But here I really have to say, this horsepower output is actually enough. And I think still the best combination. Big battery, but the rear-wheel drive only version has the advantage. You have a more narrow turning circle. So the turning circle of this vehicle at 10.2 meters, that's a smaller turning circle than the Audi A1, the smallest turning circle in the Audi lineup. Definitely very interesting. And also very good here that it's raining at the moment. Not that it's pleasant outside, but we can even better test, you know, the NVH. So like what's the noise level and so on. Yeah, limited visibility. Thank you so much, Q4 e-tron. I didn't see it was limited visibility. Yeah, about that. So what my point is, noise insulation, superb. It's very silent in here, although it's raining cats and dogs outside. Yeah, we'll get a little bit lighter now here though. And also like the rolling from the tires and so on, super silent in here. At the same time, steering, very precise, very sporty here with the flat top and bottom. So it feels very sporty. At the same time, it's a comfortable drive. You have a more or less upright seating position. So the ergonomics of the seats, also very good. So I'm really feeling at home here on the motorway, and I've driven to this test drive here in the Audi Q8, which is of course segment bigger, and that also offers good comfort, of course. But here, it's not that I would feel so much less comfort, although it's a little bit smaller, you know, more in this mid-size segment here. So really, really happy that we have comfort, at the same time good sporty driving feelings. And it's good that the electric motors, the torque is instantaneously, it's directly there, and therefore it's still also suitable for the motorway journeys. If you want more power, then go for the all-wheel drive version. But for most cases, this one here will also be just fine. And yeah, I really have to say, I feel one with the vehicle. Some kind of traveling feeling, because, you know, it's like really long to the front windshield. That's creating definitely some traveling van style feel, so to speak. But again, due to the low center of gravity, batteries placed in the center of the vehicle, it feels very, very sporty. So on the outside, typical mid-size SUV style. Okay, the Sportback looks a little bit sportier, but definitely once again, it drives sportier than it actually looks, and that's a lot of fun, and still safe traveling here also in the rain. And it's only rear-wheel driven. It's actually no problem as long as you keep all the stability systems in place. It's no problem at all. And I mean that, you know, you can leave it in the auto mode. You can go efficiency, comfort, and dynamic in dynamic mode, for example. You have a little bit more throttle input. Steering and so on, everything reacts a little bit differently, but it doesn't make the biggest difference. So let's see, we drop a little bit speed in dynamic mode. Okay, and then let's see, comfort mode. It went back to the auto again, right? So wait a minute, comfort mode. Okay, got that. Now dynamic mode. Let's see the difference. Jonas? Not too much, right? Yeah, so that's probably more than with the petrol engines in general, because in the dynamic modes, they're going in a lower gear, for example. Some electric vehicles also vary the horsepower output over these driving modes, but here it didn't make a big difference, at least when we are already at speed. Might be a little bit different than when we start just from the get-go. As for the energy consumption, of course we have the acceleration included now, but a good average is some 17 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 27 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. So that again confirms my prediction of around 400 kilometers or 250 miles of electric range. There's no other range for this vehicle here. And I think that's still quite reasonable, but also shows you have to go with the biggest battery with this vehicle, otherwise the range will, for a lot of use cases, be not enough. But as a traveling vehicle here, it's really very well done. Comparing it to the VW ID.4, it definitely feels more premium, as we talked about in the interior. You know, I just love this matte wood area here we have in this trim. It also feels a little bit more sophisticated while driving. It feels to me also a little bit sportier. So you can of course go like from the S-Line always and so on. And here when you have the adaptive suspension, we have here the dynamic or adaptive suspension has the possibility to do it a little bit stiffer then, or a little bit softer once again. But the general setup of this vehicle to me feels a little bit sportier than the ID.4, without giving you less less comfort or something. So I think just steering setup, suspension, the whole handling dynamic is really perfect. So they really nailed it here with this vehicle. And as I said, also the noise insulation, very, very cool. And when we're getting, once again, limited visibility, well, now it's actually better, definitely, right? Whee! Yeah, one more thing. First of all, once again, driving dynamics, also just from startup, really cool, so much fun. Didn't expect this vehicle to be so much fun. That's really cool. And about recuperation, that part was missing. So either in the normal D mode, the car is just rolling here, down and then I can also switch to the B mode. Then I'm not doing anything, more recuperation. And I would recommend using the B mode. Just fits more to the electric vehicles. And also in the moment you switch from the throttle to the brake pedal, before you would do that, you lift your foot off the throttle and there's already deceleration happening. So I think it's also a matter of safety, and you just get used to it when driving electric vehicles. It's not that they would set it on the strongest recuperation ever. So they rather have this rolling philosophy, and they want then customers to use recuperation by using the brake pedal. You can argue pro and con for that. I'm more a fan of harder recuperation when you lift the throttle. Then as soon as you get used to the one pedal driving feeling, you just, feel happy with that. But here they rather want, let's say, existing Audi customers not to feel irritated too much, transition to the electric vehicles, and rather say you drive it more a little bit with the brake pedal, So, yeah, what do you think about that, actually? And you can also change the recuperation here with the brake pedals. When you are, in the D mode, then you can go a little bit higher or a little bit lower. So that's possible as well. And now comparison with the all-wheel drive model, 300 horsepower, fast acceleration. Let's see how it goes. Whee! That was 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. Pretty quick, and definitely you feel you just have more punch here with the all-wheel drive model. Yeah, but you also realize that the turning circle is a little bit wider. This is the rear view camera here, by the way. Very good to have that, of course. In the US models, it's always standard because of the regulations. In Europe, you have to pay extra. And here, yeah, definitely feel the rear wheel drive model is, a little bit lighter to control. Definitely when you have narrow turning circle and so on. Triple news with the Audi Q5, recently facelifted, available as the Sportback SUV coupe shape and also as a new updated plug-in hybrid. Let's find out more about that. Let's go. This is Autogefühle with Thomas. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far, and if you have already, you're very cool. Here in the front of the Q5 with the facelift, wider front grille, a sporty look even for the base versions. And here the Matrix LED are an option. Then you have more high beam feature, and of course very cool also as for the cascading turning indicators, both in the front and in the rear. Well, next to that you have this special feature here, the rear OLED. So it's an option, there we go. Seen here this proximity sensor. This is a beginning of that the cars communicate with the outside world with their lights, saying like, hey, you're coming too close to me, buddy. And here you can also see the difference in design when you have this Sportback version, that you have this falling effect here. And yeah, I think it's just a design preference. Which one would you prefer, actually? From the rear, maybe? I think the normal Q5 even looks more consistent in design, doesn't it? Lower part, that's really cool. No fake exhaust tip whatsoever. Finally, they got rid of that. The length at 4.69 meters or 185 inches. Wheels-wise, the Sportback version starts with 18-inch wheels and up to 21-inch. These here are 20-inch wheels. The color, very interesting, is called District Green. Is it more like In My Hood Yaw or District 5 or District 7? Where are you from? Well, it's unusual, let's take it that way. Here, the wheel arches, they have changed that also with the facelift. In this case, you have this kind of SUV crossover look, but you have it in a painted style. Then there are different stylings available indeed. This one, of course, looks a little bit more sophisticated. And you get both the SUV and the SUV coupe shape, if you want to take that. This is called the Sportback now, and you can see it right here with that falling roofline. It appears smaller in that way. Really like this car key. It's slim and light and high class, better than the all new ones we've seen from some manufacturers. So this is one of my favorite ones, actually. Pretty cool. Door closing sound, very solid. But not so solid is what we see here. Still some hard pack here at the inside of the doors. In this price segment, not acceptable. Then here, this is actually nice with nice clicking sounds here and these, these polished tops. This is good build quality. Here we have the S-Line interior, not S-Line exterior, but S-Line interior. Then we also have the S-Line steering wheel here in a sporty style, perforation at the sides. And even here the top dashboard is not too soft. Actually, it's almost hard pack entirely. And here then the S-Line seats, pretty cool. Here also with fabric inserts. They are not available in the US market though. In Germany or in general Europe you can get here fabric or also microfiber, but never without animal share. So not a step in the right direction yet. Also with the facelift, no news in that respect. But the seating comfort in general here is actually quite decent. Here we have the manual control of the steering wheel that goes very wide in and out, and with 1.86 or 6'1", there's plenty of headroom left. Interior overview, very clean, stylish here with this split here, Quattro logo and brushed aluminum. And yes, my favorite AC unit, and I really love it. It's so easy to control it while driving, and listen to that. Click, click, click from the Audi Sound Laboratory. It's wonderful. And also here, this has some capacitive function. It's interesting, right? So there are actually buttons which have some capacitive function, but still there are, real buttons. Really, really cool. I see it is fading away, but I hope it will stay some more time. Then here in the lower part, the drive select, this is not that easy to reach. And here you can switch between the EV mode and the EV hybrid mode. Soon more details while driving about that. Okay guys, one more time. One more time. Then usually with the facelift you get now this touchscreen which is attached, 10-inch. It's very easy to access and to control actually. And here the touchscreen, to me it is actually something better because it makes the car faster to control. Here in the driving modes we can take a look at that. Here Audi Drive Select. The air suspension which is put in this vehicle as an option. Here you can raise it then, for example. Left side here you have the digital instruments. These are an option. You start with analog gauges and then here 12.3-inch Audi Virtual Cockpit. The digital instruments, the Audi Virtual Cockpit, I really just love it, I have to say. It's so crystal clear, and to switch around the views is actually super easy. Of course, you can also have the GPS in the middle, all here full screen. Lovely also that we still have a three-dimensional real logo here at the steering wheel. In the Q4 e-tron, it is gone actually, and I don't like it. Prefer it just when it's like the real thing. Yeah, I always prefer it in the real thing. Don't you as well? And here as well, here. Yes, there's a normal volume jog here at the steering wheel. It's so easy to control it while driving as well. Lower area with a USB-A charger, then this is, when you have a smoker's package, but otherwise it's just, empty. Another passenger volume control. Here you can put the key, for example, and then this is an inductive charging pad. I can, however, just put my smartphone in there also when I use the cable, which then has USB-C charging here. In the rear you also have these nice fabric covers here, and these with this setup here, so that's cool. Knee room wise, it does fit for 4 tall adults, but not, that large. Headroom wise, also okay with 1.86 or 6'1", and it's actually fairly comfortable here. Kind of like a single seat setup, but it's really good. Big middle tunnel with some charging possibilities, and here sitting in the middle part is possible, not the best, also not the worst. And what you can also do is changing the angle here of the seat like this. You can have it like this upright or a little bit more to the back, and then you could also fold it from here. So it's actually quite interesting that here in the rear there's hardly any compromise here with the Sportback version. Here with 510 liters you lose about 40 liters in comparison to the SUV, because it's just measured here below the cover. Then the full loading potential is even a little bit less than in the SUV style. 95 centimeters or 37 inches in the length, and here the width is even over a meter or 40 inches, so that's good. And you still get enough height even here, just about 45 centimeters or yeah, some 18 inches, so that's actually fine. You don't lose too much. You can see here the cabin trolley also fits in easily in a vertical way. And here you can also fold the seats, and yeah, they fold quite well. If you want to have them fold completely, you need to push them with your luggage. And here, there's like a charging cable box, which is like massive. Yeah, and you cannot fold up anything here. So the question is if you want to keep that. That's one difference here, by the way, with the PHEV. You know, so this area cannot be tilted up. 2-liter 4-cylinder or 3-liter 6-cylinder, both petrol and diesels are available. The SQ5 as petrol version only available in the States, for example. In Europe, you get the SQ5 diesel. But now there's an alternative, the plug-in hybrids. Why is that? Well, they're based on the 2-liter 4-cylinder. And the interesting thing is they're very quick, because here the 50 TFSI-E, and then there's the 55 TFSI-E. They're really powerful, 300 or 367 horsepower system output, so around 5 seconds or 6 seconds in the acceleration figure each. That's of course pretty massive. That actually means that the 55 TFSI-E is even quicker than the SQ5 petrol. Wow. But of course it won't sound like that. And maximum charging speed is 7.2 kilowatt of that 14 kilowatt hour battery. So in an ideal case, just about 2 hours to charge that battery, but of course it's not too big though. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge here with the Audi Q5 Sportback PHEV from 50 kilometers an hour. Acceleration, let's go. $150 and 180, that's enough for now, so pretty quick. And of course here with the electric power, it is even quicker in the very first moments. That's the thing. And this one here around 6 seconds in the acceleration figure, and the other PHEV version, which just has a little bit more horsepower tune, just over 5 seconds, and that's even faster than the V6 SQ5. So really astonishing here, the plug-in hybrid power, although it comes from the 2-liter 4-cylinder. But the thing is really not in these later stages when you're here at higher speeds, more in the earlier stages. We're in the sport mode here, using electric power and combustion at the same time. The air suspension now is really, really stiff. So it really stiffens up when you are in that sport mode. Then it doesn't feel like an air suspension at all, but we have here a lot of great stability. Noise insulation is on a good level. Not the best, but definitely not bad or something. So definitely a good level. There's an extra here for about 150 euros. That there's also the special insulation here at the side windows here in the front. And when we take the drive select here, it's placed here in the lower part, and put it to the auto mode, and the suspension also gets a little bit softer. Once again, steering feeling very good, precise, direct. In the sports mode, it's a little bit, a little bit more resistance done. That's to me a little bit better for steering. And here in that auto mode, then the car also automatically decides if you rather go EV or not. And you can also kind of help that. There's an EV button here, and then you can switch, showed that to you earlier in the infotainment system, between EV driving specifically and this auto hybrid. It says intelligent use of battery charge. So in this auto mode, when you're driving really slowly, then it always goes electric. And then, for example, going higher speed in the motorway, then it will activate the combustion engine. Whereas when the EV mode, the electric driving will always be kind of pre-selected and will stay in that way. Indeed, with the plug-in hybrid drivetrains, it's more efficient to use EV driving in the city and to use the combustion engine on the motorway. And that's then what this hybrid mode is actually doing. Interesting also, I mean, there's all-wheel drive here, but in this case then, let's see here, whoa, wow, yeah, that's really cool. So this acceleration from the get-go, that's the one that is really, really cool, because it has this instant power, and you don't have the sound like in the SQ5. So the SQ5 will always feel sportier, and you think it's sportier. Acceleration-wise, this one already comes close. When you had the air suspension here, yeah, the suspension was quite stiff, and then you can also do some great cornering. So it really goes in the SQ5 direction in a way. Then here also with the S line, so there's not too much difference left then. Yeah, and price-wise also not, because this one here, with all the equipment we've shown you today, I mean, it's a great vehicle, but the price is at 80,000 euros? What? It's of course too expensive, you know, that's the thing. But you get a lot for it quality-wise. It's a premium vehicle. Really feels also very good to the countryside road. Very, you know, calm and sophisticated on the road. And about recuperation, so when you go off the throttle, the car is rather rolling, you know, that's the philosophy here in the normal D auto mode. And just when you're actually on the brakes, then it goes into this charging area. As for the overall range, as we started here, our trip, we're about, just over 500 kilometers or over 300 miles of combustion engine range, and then around 40 kilometers or 25 miles as for the electric range. And then you have an overall range of, some 550 kilometers or 330, 340 miles, something like this. So actually fine with that. The electric range, of course, could be a little bit better, but most of the plug-in hybrids do not offer much more range yet, actually. So it really varies here from that official figure they're giving you. Really unpleasant weather on the outside, but this one here, the Audi Q5, gives you such a calm and settled driving feeling. You can drive it in a sporty way and enjoy it with the steering and suspension and so on. At the same time, it's also good long term because you have the comfortable seating position. Here also with the best seats that are available, told you that earlier, with the fabric surface. This will be also most breathable when it's, for example, really hot in summer times. The cruise control is set with a separate stall column in the lower area here. And then with my left index finger here in the upper stall column, I can also activate or deactivate quite easily the lane keeping assist. And I tested earlier on the motorway. The lane keeping assist is not intrusive at all. It rules kind of late. It's not in this autonomous area. It's more like keeping you on the lane, keeping you on the road. But the good thing about that is that it doesn't annoy you, and if at some point it would annoy, then you can always deactivate it pretty quickly and then steer yourself. So this vehicle here still gives you some kind of classic analog user interface. I really like that. You have the modern touchscreen there where you can also easily get to your Apple CarPlay while driving here and so on. That's okay. It's not distracting too much because you can also easily access it in here. Then the manual climate tuning while driving, with my favorite climate unit of all times. We see it's fading away. So maybe at some point I just have to get maybe at least a model of this. Can I ask Audi if they do you have any of these spare parts left there for these climate units? Just send me one for the museum, for the Audi Q3 museum. Then I always go there like to the, behind the glass box and sometimes like click, 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 click for the AC unit. Yeah, you see I'm already planning my retirement, but not yet. So back to the driving here. Yeah, countryside road, also once again very calm, and I really like to steer this car around. So it does deliver you one of the best driving feelings in this segment.
Ooh, is this how the future of Audi looks like? Let's find out together with the all-new Audi Q6 e-tron, the new electric Audi SUV here in the very final version. It will actually pave the way for more new electric models at Audi. It's also the brother or sister of the Porsche Macan Electric, which we also have recently shown. And here in the front, let's start with Thomas Nauticruel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the closed front grille. This is an S-line vehicle, so you have these rather sporty forms in the lower part. At the same time, it also employs a black pack, so the accentuations in the grille, also in the lower part, everything is blacked out. Here the vehicle is closing itself, and you can see once again this cool welcome or goodbye signature. If you go for the optional matrix LED, then you can pick individual signatures. So you can basically individualize your vehicle from the lights both in the front and also in the rear. Side profile, 4.77 meters or 188 inches is the length of the Q6 e-tron, and by that it basically sits between the Q8 e-tron and the Q4 e-tron.
But I can already tell you right now, when this is launching right now, the Q8 e-tron is dead. Why is that? This one is more efficient and also offers higher range. I really love the Q8 e-tron, you know, how it drives, how it looks. I think it actually looks more beautiful than this one. But the range is just not sufficient, and it's also not efficient enough. So this one here will be the big new Audi SUV, even though it is a little bit smaller here in this EV segment. Wheels, 18 to 21 inch, and these here are indeed the biggest ones available. The color here is called Plasma Blue, by the way. The CD value, by the way, is at 0.28, not the best one. Just comparing a Tesla Model X is at 0.24. That's way better because in CD value the lower value is better. So how the car basically stands, you know, in the wind, how aerodynamic it is. Towards the rear, well, that looks at least aerodynamic. Look at that, this light strip going all the way across, pretty cool. If you have, by the way, this optional OLED in the rear, so that's an option even on top of the Matrix LED, then you also have these organic LED here in the lower part. So one of the features of the rear OLED is the proximity sensor. So when I'm getting closer to the vehicle, there it is. It basically signals like, stop, you're getting too close. Maybe if another vehicle is behind you. And what's also a pretty cool or funny feature, when I activate the hazard lights, look at that, then we also have this emergency triangle here next to the hazard lights or turning indicators, which also have the cascading style. And the turning indicators in the front, wow, look at that. Here, this individual segmentation, that looks really futuristic. Just matte black here for the key, by the way, I like that. And in the rear, what's also pretty cool, that we have also a very nice welcome and goodbye signature when we start up or close the vehicle. There it is. You can see how it builds up. Yeah, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? And now to the tech spec. So the suspension, the base suspension, will get frequency selective dampers. That means it's not actively adaptive, but reacts passively adaptive to the impact it gets. That's the standard. Optional air suspension that both counts for the normal Q8 e-tron, sorry, Q6 e-tron and the SQ6 e-tron. Wait a minute, there's also an SQ6. So here, this is the new logo for S-line models, and if it would be an SQ6, then there would be an additional S between the badging right here. Because there will be an entry-level rear-wheel drive only model, so with just a rear electric motor, but available at a later stage after we filmed this video. And then at the moment they're launching it with the all-wheel drive model, this one here, the Q6 e-tron Quattro. This will have an acceleration figure of 5.9 seconds to 1 kilometers an hour, 62 miles an hour. And at 4.3 seconds, then the SQ6, the sporty model, also one electric motor in the rear, one in the front, giving you the best possible acceleration and so far. Does it frunk or not? We know that the German manufacturers have been saving frunks for later, it seems. But now it's there. Probably because it's a Porsche brother, and you know they are famous for frunks also in the non-electric models. Here 65 liters, so enough space not only for a charging cable, maybe even for something more. Batteries either 95 kilowatt hours net or the smaller one 80 kilowatt hours net, and we expect some 500 kilometers, 300 miles of range for the bigger battery in a mixed condition. Can be of course better when you have like mild temperature and so on and very constant speed. Could be worse in wintertime and high speed and so on. Recharging now 800 volt architecture because they share that with Porsche. And here's the charging flap. There we go. It's also electric. The reaction here in that studio car not that good yet. AC 11 kilowatt, optional 22 kilowatt later, and DC peak is now 270 kilowatt, and that means 21 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. So that's actually a cool thing. We can also close, you can just like a short tap right here. There we go. So the cool thing is they share the charging architecture with Porsche, and so they profit from this really, really quick charging. The only thing they don't get, well, the Macan gets a rear axle steering. The Q6 e-tron here does not get it. After all then, yeah, it's also low in the price, so the price difference here, Q6 e-tron to the Macan in the entry price, at least 10,000 euros if you compare the all-wheel drive models. And of course, a Macan, when you spec it, it gets easily way more expensive. So the price difference, the effective one, will be even larger than after configuring these two vehicles. Now I've been charging the vehicle. And let's see, the charging flap is supposed to close. Ah, there we go. Supposed to close itself. That's nice. And of course, we could recharge a lot here in the studio. And pretty cool, we have a second charging flap here on the passenger side, and that is actually standard. I'm just not the biggest fan of this mechanism. Here, this is an AC charging on the passenger side. What I really like here with this studio is that we can turn the car around, always, facing the best light for you. And it's also really funny that, this disc here, when you just listen to it, like the mechanism underneath, to me it sounds like a medieval bridge, getting released or pulled up. Maybe, like in a, very archaic movie or something. Yeah, and then you can also see the car from all the different angles as well. Let's check out the door closing sounds. Oh, that's awesome. Listen to that. Wow, what a door closing sound. This is perfection indeed. Then inside of the door, top part here is not entirely hard pick, I would say, but kind of hard structure. And then a nice fabric insert here, this very trim. Then hashtag capacitive BS buttons here in the side of the door. You see, this is one button. So this is definitely going Mercedes style now. But you have individual fields then here for the control of the side mirrors and so on. Then you can actually open the rear trunk. There's no felt covering on that inside here at all. There's also the S-line interior. You can see that here at the badge in the lower part. And then we also have the S-line steering wheel with the new two-dimensional Audi logos, perforation at the side. At the moment here it's off. There you can see how it looks like when it's off, and when I turn on the ignition, then you can see here also at the steering wheel these fields are illuminated. They also give somewhat a feedback, but once again this one button field design, and I always just feel it's cost savings. Manufacturers tell me it's not, it's for design purposes, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have a different understanding of that. Yeah, and then have you these shifting pedals, which are of course not for shifting then for the electric vehicles, but rather for the recuperation modes. Here, by the way, easily muting the vehicle. This is here also my favorite seat. So we have fabric on the inside, leatherette on the outside. This is also the sport seat. So there would be a base seat, and then here there's a sport seat that has more accentuation here in the upper part, in the shoulder area. And the base seat is also available with this material mix, but only in the EU. Northern American versions will have a leatherette animal skin mix. So overall, it is in general not possible to get this vehicle here animal free. And there's hardly any other manufacturer in the world that presents an electric vehicle in 2024 and offers no animal free solution. Also not for the steering wheel. So Audi is really lagging behind in that case. But this seat combination would be the best there is, but then again, not available in the North American market. So, disappointed in that respect. Here, headroom with 189, 6 for 2. Wow, ample of space here. You can, of course, also get a panoramic roof. And it's a very nice and comfortable seating position. A lot of space, no problem at all. Wow, and then look at that screen setup here. Screens. So we have here this one curved unit, and also the exterior frame here resembles the octagon grille in the front on the exterior, and it consists actually of 12-inch screen, 14.5-inch screen, Android Automotive in the back office, so to speak. On the right side, 11-inch passenger screen. This is an option, and I also love here. Look at that here, the ambient lighting, in this yard design going all the way across. I also appreciate this here. This living room atmosphere with the fabric covering. Also soft touch on the top dashboard. Digital instruments here on the left side. You can change also the view or the contents you want to see. You can get a head-up display, and when you here start or shut down the vehicle, you also have this animation in the head display. Temperature control is here in the lower part. It always stays here and also gives you this clicking feedback, so to speak, but no haptical interface. Here for the van speed, they also have to go in this menu right here. It's a completely new infotainment system. It looks really very different. And you can, of course, also switch through the different colors here for the ambient lighting. Lower middle console here, first of all, adaptive cup holders. You can also close them like this. The cover here, however, feels a little bit light, I would say. A lot of high gloss black here, definitely. This is then the shifting lever, B for the higher recuperation mode. Still, we have a manual volume jog here. Like to have that. Oh, smoker's package. Haven't seen that for a while. There we go. And then we have two USB-C chargers in the front, and there's an inductive charging pad. It's kind of hard to see. You can put a smartphone right there and it's being held tight. There's also a cooling for the inductive charging pad underneath. Yeah, not the best solution in the front, they're hidden maybe. And then there's a nice fabric covering here for this middle console. At the moment there's a emergency fail-safe switch here for this studio vehicle, which is still like the very first one that is built, or one of the first ones. Of course, this will be then empty and with more space underneath. If you are a passenger at some point, in motorcycle racing, you sometimes say like, he was a passenger at some point. When you get rid of your motorcycle while driving, that's of course the worst thing that can happen. Yeah, I'm motocross and supercross fan, that's why I was thinking of that. But if you're a passenger in the vehicle, then you have one advantage here in the Q6 e-tron. You can control the passenger screen. It's basically mirroring what you see on the left. You can have all the things in the infotainment system. But I have always been wondering, why would you do that? I mean, yeah, you can control the GPS a little bit better because the screens on the left side here are lent towards the driver. So indeed, in this setup here, it is harder for the, you would really have to reach over here as a passenger. Yeah, it's kind of like a trade-off. I'm not sure about that solution yet. In most cases, I would say the passenger screen is not a very useful option, or you don't have to have it. Let's take it that way. But talking about this option policy, there is something happening here again with this function on demand thing. And we know, like from the gaming industry and so on, you buy like another sword and you pay for the sword or something. And manufacturers are also kicking in that game now because, for example, with the Matrix LED, you can start with the base LED and then you can, like for 1,400 euros, buy the Matrix LED. Or for less than 1,000 euros, you buy the possibility of having the Matrix LED, like the hardware, but you cannot use the function. And then they want to charge you monthly, weekly, whatever, annually for that function to use. They say, Audi says that for the Q5, for example, people like from the Nordic countries, they have been using that, for example, pay for that option during the winter months. Maybe that's then the cheaper solution, but the question is for how long? For example, when you lease the vehicle, yeah, I can understand the thought behind it. Then also manufacturers want to earn more money, also monthly or annually from the customer. For me personally, me as a customer, I would always feel a little bit betrayed if I have something in the car, but I cannot use it. You know what I mean? So I understand the concept behind it, but I'm not a fan of it. Rear, first of all, here inside of the doors, also with a nice fabric covering. Then this is here in rather hard pack, but we have a nice manual shade you can pull up, especially for the kids. And then using that EV platform, there's hardly a middle tunnel, just like really slightly. And then this is of course good, a lot of legroom, although it's not the super longest vehicle, but that's actually a good result. And then also here the headroom, no problem at all. So there's good space here for the whole family in the rear. Middle seat, so what about 5 tall adults, also works. You sit a little bit higher there. Of course, it's a focus on the outside seats. You have ISOFIX as well. And this you can pull down with more adaptive cup holders. Here actually the whole build quality makes a very good impression. What do you think? This one here or the Macan? So I pulled out my Dark Saber. You know what time it is now. Check out the trunk. 530 liters up to 1,530 liters. And the normal length here is about 1 meter or 40 inches. And the width actually as well. Height, especially for dog owners, 77 centimeters or 30 inches. And you can also easily fold the seats from here directly. This is here a manual shade like this, and underneath, if you don't want to use the front,
you can also store some charging cables right here. Let me just put in some luggage that you have maybe like a better understanding of that whole thing. You can see it's raising there a little bit towards the seats, definitely. There's like a bigger suitcase, and the normal cabin trolley, see here, also easily fits in a vertical way. Here you can already see that this one is a vehicle with air suspension. You can put the whole loading area lower than for easier loading in. By the way, this will have towing capacity here in the all-wheel drive version, 2.4 tons. Actually quite notable for an electric vehicle. And pricing, as it is right here in the all-wheel drive spec, but in the entry trim, 75,000 euros. That is around 9,000 euros less expensive than the Porsche Macan all-wheel drive. The price will be lower later on if you have the rear-wheel drive only version than as an entry level. And of course, spec'd as it is here right now, a lot of the Q6 e-tron models will, also be more expensive. So it's not an inexpensive car at all, but less expensive than the Porsche Macan with a little bit less tech. Of course, they also need an animal-free interior, said that earlier, but still, because this is now the best EV offering that Audi has, this will be the most sold Audi EV. I'm quite certain of that. That's 85, almost 90 kilometers an hour. So that's like 0 to 50, 55 miles per hour approximately. The official figure to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour is around 6 seconds here with the 55 model, so a strong all-wheel drive model. Above that is only the S model, that's then a little bit quicker at 4.5 seconds in the acceleration. The electric motor setup, completely new electric motors from Audi. It works in a way that the rear electric motor is always the stronger one, actually. So you have some rear wheel bias, like with the classic Quattro, for example, where you had this 40-60. Can't directly translate it because it individually rules on each axle. So there's no mechanical link, of course, here in the electric platform. But you can still keep this rear wheel bias somewhat. And it's also very interesting what they did then with cornering. For example, when I'm at the outgoing of a corner and I open the steering again to accelerate out, then a little bit more power is diverted to the front wheels that you can better get out of the corner, and also getting pulled out of the corner, basically. Very beautiful roads here on the Faroe Islands, and of course there's a lot of wind outside and also some rain there, but for that it's actually quite silent in here. So as we know, the good noise dampening from Audi. As for suspension, you will optionally get an air suspension. We also have it here in this very vehicle, and it depends then on the driving mode. At the moment we are in the dynamic mode, but still, although it's the dynamic mode, suspension a little bit stiffer, and we have 21-inch wheels mounted, you still feel the air suspension, but we just get a little bit more feedback. But as we know also from the Audi setups, that even when it's in a sporty mode, it still keeps a certain amount of comfort, that you can basically sit in a dynamic mode in this vehicle and still drive it for your whole trip and not have loss of comfort, for example. In the dynamic mode, I also have a little bit more feedback at the steering wheel, and I like that. Of course, you can also set individual modes. I sometimes do that when I drive the vehicle for a longer period of time. That I have an individual mode where I have more feedback on the steering wheel, but maybe suspension on the softer note. Here in the comfort mode, I set it here in the lower part of the vehicle, the drive select button. Comfort mode gives me a little bit more play with the steering, and the suspension is a little bit softer even. And so if you want to go for large wheels, then air suspension is recommended to basically even that out. If you want even softer comfort, then you would need to reduce the wheel size, because then you have a little bit more dampening from the tire. Interesting is also when we go through the drive select, we have efficiency, we have off-road mode, the car goes a little bit higher then. If we would drive really slow, we would even have a lift mode that puts the car even higher for more ground clearance. And then there's the new balanced mode, and that one replaces the mode Auto, we known for a lot of years before. And they renamed this mode now to be more precise, because Auto, some customer thought that the car would automatically do everything, but it was basically just like a normal balanced mode, and that's why
They renamed it now to balanced, and then you can go softer in the setup to comfort or stiff in the setup to dynamic. But you can always just stay in the balanced mode because it indeed fulfills all purposes. So you can drive in a very comfortable way, but also when you drive sporty, it's still fine. For example, when I do some left-right here, the car doesn't shake up at all. But at the same time, when we have some uneven parts in the road, it's not getting bumpy or something. A little bit quicker corner, for example, steering really precise, so there's no dead zone area from the steering. Acceleration out, good performance from the electric motors. Let's see if we can feel something of that. Yeah, interesting, yeah. Yeah, you feel when you open the steering that you get some more power from the front axle. That's very interesting. So you might argue that it maybe feels less sporty because the sportier feel is always when you always have more power at the rear, which also works with the driving modes, by the way, when you are in the dynamic driving mode. But then again, to be more efficient and quicker out of the corner, it is actually good that when you open the steering again, that you're also getting more pulled from the front. They're very interesting indeed. Driving uphill now, once again a very beautiful landscape, and well, the good thing here for an electric vehicle is when the air gets thin, it's no problem when you compare it to a combustion engine, for example. The very interesting question is, by the way, you asked me that before, is this one here handling any differently to the Audi Q8 e-tron that was recently facelifted and also renamed? And it does feel significantly different indeed. And so what my gut feeling tells me, with the Q8 e-tron, you can still somewhat feel the combustion engine platform. This one here really feels completely different. What do I mean by that? If you drive a normal Audi A6, for example, an Audi Q8, an Audi Q8 e-tron, they all feel somewhat similar. You sit down and get a known feeling. This one here feels in a way different, but at the same time, suspension-wise, for example, and steering-wise, it feels known Audi, but just everything that goes on around you. You kind of feel the shorter overhangs. It feels more EV. This is what my feeling tells me when I'm driving this one.
The diesel is gone, the performance petrol engines are back for the big Audi SUVs. In the front we can see a very strong styling with this single frame grille. And you will also see that the SQ8 here has a wider frame around the grille than the Q7. You'll soon see that. Here also, not only this very beautiful Misano red color, you can of course get different colors, but here there's also the additional black package, where you have the black accentuations here in a shiny black in the lower part and also around the grille. Headlamps start with LED as standard, also beautiful modern signature here you can see, and the SQ8 optional then with matrix LED. There's a difference then to the SQ7, where you can get these headlamps also standard LED, but then not only matrix LED, but exclusively for the Q7 in here. Also optional, these laser lights, even more elaborated high beam function. You can also see them with the blue accentuations here. And blue is also the color for today with the SQ7. It's called Atoll Blue, a very beautiful one. Yeah, somewhat in the direction of a Thomas Blue here. And you can see here we have the standard grille with the chrome frame around. Then you can see this area is not as wide as with the SQ8, so a little bit more subtle look you can say. So the Q8 in general has a sportier styling, but a difference is definitely you could also get the black accentuations for the SQ7. It's just a matter of preference. Here, of course, when you have the silver contrast, it looks a little bit more sporty elegant, and with the black one it's rather a little bit, sporty menacing. And I know you guys always want to see the turning indicators right here with the SQ7. The ending right here is very interesting, very distinct, and you get these cascading indicators when you pick a matrix LED light at Audi. And contrast to that, the one of the SQ8, a little bit more subtle in this case, but also somewhat special. I think both look really awesome. The length of the Q8 is 5 meters, 16'4" or 197 inches. And the difference is just that the Q7 is about 5 centimeters or 2 inches longer.
They both share the very same wheelbase, it's just that the Q7 has a longer overhang in the rear and then also the option of a third seating row. It's a really cool shot with both here, parallel right in the side profile. You can see here the wheel arches always in vehicle color for these sporty models. One slight difference here. The SQ8 comes with 21 to 23 inch wheels, whereas the SQ7 comes with 20 inch to 22 inch wheels. So the SQ7 then a size smaller, and also the tires themselves, they're a little bit wider here with the SQ8. So a little sportier setup, but they both share the same base hardware. They come standard with an adaptive air suspension, and also the rear axle steering is now included for both models. So 5 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels, so that reduces the turning circle by about a meter. Of course, also gives you more agility at lower speeds. At higher speeds, then the rear axle steers in the same direction up to 1.5 degrees. And optional, you can also get an anti-roll or anti-tilt control, so the vehicle stays more upright, and also a sports differential for the rear axle. Both here with an all-wheel drive setup that is rear-wheel biased. So you also have power to the front, but rather a standard quattro all-wheel drive. Very interesting. And of course, you can see design-wise here the difference. Once again, with this, standard silver contrast here, for example, at the side mirror caps. Once again, here then with the dark or night package right here. You can see also black frames around the windows, where it has the chrome frames around here, and also the silver contrast in the lower part in contrast to the black. So very interesting to see them. And of course the Q7 just continues here with this roof line over here. Looks more, a little bit box stylish, so to speak. Whereas the Q8 has this more elegant falling roofline, but not a classical very round coupe shape. So that's why I also really like the SQ8 from the styling. But which one is your favorite? And the rear comparison right here, and this is quite obvious that the SQ8 has the sportier styling here with the falling line right here, and also the light strip that goes all the way over the vehicle. Very beautiful job. And again, the black accentuations also here in the lower part. And then we can see the SQ7 with the more upright style, that you have a little bit more space on the interior, and very different tail lamp designs. So actually from the rear they are most different, we can say. And here with the silver contrast, but as I said, you could also get the black styling then here for the SQ7. And in the lower part we can see here, case for the autogefühl fake exhaust police. Well, it's not a pure fake exhaust because the air does go through, but it's definitely an outside beauty tip because the real exhaust is on the inside, but also the real one has 4 pipes. And the cascading turning indicators, and funny to see here in the SQ7, they are below the tail lamp unit, and here with the SQ8, they are above the tail lamp unit. And we also have a special paint here for the SQ8 for you. This one is called Velvet Purple. It's an exclusive color, so you have to go over the exclusive program, but definitely, a very, very unique one. What do you think? I think, in this very special color, the SQ8 gets a little bit of Lambo style, doesn't it? And now the trunk comparison, we start with the SQ8. And the cool thing is really because it's not this classic SUV coupe, you just lose a little bit of the height right here. That's what you lose in comparison to the Q7. The liter figure here around 600 liters in the capacity, so you can very well still use it. You can see it here. This is here like a trunk splitter, but you can also remove it completely. That's possible. In the front you can put this one here up just for some additional repair equipment and so on. And you can lower the vehicle here air suspension wise, for example, and this cover right here, it's like this. It's actually very good rails here also at the side. And then we have to go around to fold the seats because they work like this, and that way it would be fixed, of course, here in the 1/3, 2/3 split. And one cool feature is that here this top cover here, where you don't use it manually, it's just going back and forth also electrically, automatically. Really cool. You can see when I close the hatch right here, not yet, But as soon as it's closed, and well, you can't really see it, but if you really look closer, there it is. There it is. Then it closes. So when I open it again, then you can see there it is, and it's drawn back. And now the SQ7. Here the capacity is 865 liters, so more than 200 liters more than the SQ8. And we have removed, first of all, this cover, which would also automatically go up and down. And I also removed here, you know, this splitter, and it's like a scroll down here. And here it says, "You shall subscribe." I hope you already did. So, and here the third seating row. And this can be folded up here also from here electronically. That's actually a very nice solution. And the main difference is, due to the longer overhang in the Q7, you have a longer trunk. That's the thing. And you have a little bit more height right here. So it's then also easier with a backpack and so on. Of course, it also easily fits in the SQ8, but you're just a little bit more flexible here with the SQ7. We start with the interior overview here today, because SQ7, SQ8 is just the same right here. Horizontal stress, also then here with the vents. A lot of black piano lacquer use. However, here the styling elements in carbon fiber available here for the S models. Quattro logo will be illuminated at night with the ambient lighting. That's a very beautiful thing, definitely. The screen setup is as this: 12.3-inch digital instruments, 10.1-inch central screen, and 8.6-inch screen like this for temperature control, but also for address input in combination to that. Soon more details to the screens. Steering wheel here with the perforation at the side, flat bottom, very good size for that. Shifting pedals here for the automatic gearbox, and here you control, for example, the view for the digital instruments. We'll show you that, and a manual volume knob. This is really cool, you know, so easy to control, straightforward design. And even though you have a lot of touch controls here, you will see it is easily reachable here also to control the temperature and so on. So for a touch solution, it's one of the best ones, I think. Then here in the lower middle console, black start engine or start and stop engine button. This is, you know, also a sporty element. And at the sides, again, the carbon fiber structure. Yeah, here again, this is collecting a lot of fingerprints and so on. We have adaptive cup holders. This is also then the car key with an S logo. And further down the middle console, this armrest here can be put up just a little bit, and like this. And then you have USB-C connectors here now too, but also an inductive charging port. However, I rather use the cable. Apple CarPlay you can use with the cable, but also wireless. Android Auto just with the cable. Audi does have one of the best virtual instruments here, boom boom, and with the RPMs. That's of course very cool to see. You can have the map in the middle part, small, or change the view to the map completely. This is of course one of the big advantages then of these digital instruments, because you are so flexible, especially then with the map view. And the head-up display with the current speed and assistance system information. And if you have a route set, for example, then you also see some GPS arrows. Now details to the screens right here. Good integration of the Apple CarPlay, and let's also listen to the optional 23-speaker B&O sound system. Wow, what a surround sound, awesome. Reading very crystal clear. Now let's take a look at the differences. First of all, the door closing sound here, SQ8. Wow, nice sound, although we have the frameless windows, and sometimes there is not such a good door closing sound when there's frameless windows. This is of course an emotional feature, but great closing sound here. However, there's also the optional feature of the soft close. Magic. Yeah, but the thing is, when you have the soft close, then you also have this motor working against you when you suddenly open the door, for example. Then instead of the doors, straightforward design. Then Alcantara used at the inside of the doors, nice job, and these carbon fiber inserts. You can very well use also these door pockets. And then the front dashboard design, as we said, is similar, SQ8 and SQ7. As for the seats, here the dark design, different colors available. And in Europe, for example, you would start with the sport seat with separated head restraint. That also features Alcantara on the inside. We would recommend that. This is an optional, the Super Sport seat or the Sport Seat Plus, which has these integrated head restraint. This is a standard seat in the US. And sadly, this one only comes with animal skin spec, so they need some alternatives which are sportier and more sustainable in this case here. Other than that, the general seating comfort is quite good actually. And although the standard sport seat, if you are in the European market, would be a little bit more comfortable, this one then a little bit stiffer, just also from the surface. So, but still, considering for a sport seat, you still have a good long-term comfort. 1.86 or 6'1", and it leaves plenty of headroom right here. You also have a panoramic roof as an option, then you would have less headroom, but still it would be totally sufficient. Steering wheel control is electric right here, and you can easily find a very nice seating position, definitely already here in the SQ8. Now what's the difference then to the SQ7? Remember here the A-pillar, how it looks like here. So, and then let's compare it directly to the SQ7. That's the good thing, because we have both vehicles here on location today. And first of all, as for the design, this can be, can be bought for both vehicles, but here we have design with the gray to me a little bit, lighter and more likable, but that's of course personal preference with the Alcantara and also with the seat, again with the S stamping. But of course, in general, in the front, pretty similar, these two cars. And when I get inside right here, like this, see there's a little bit more space here as for the A-pillar. Headroom wise also really plenty, a little bit more of course. So if you're really tall and want a panoramic roof, then you would have an advantage here with the SQ7. But in general, the difference in the front between these two cars are rather minor. Now to the rear of the SQ8. You can see here again the nice Alcantara design on the inside, and in this case we also have the electric shade here for the rear windows, but they're already tinted, so this would be like a double darkening then. You see you have a lot of space in the rear. There's a big middle tunnel, yes of course, and then there's also this additional climate unit here, in this case the 4-zone AC, which is quite a nice comfort feature. And this quilted structure here in the in the rear part as well, but it's not comfortable when you have a lot of contrast stitching here with the slick surfaces. Now let's get inside. Also very easy, and you have plenty of legroom here left. So, and both cars share the same wheelbase, so legroom is not really the issue. And very comfortable here, more comfortable than in the big sedans or so on. And although this is here the SUV Coupe, there's still a lot of headroom left, and this is also an advantage if you compare it to a BMW X6 or the Mercedes GLE, because the Q8 is not such an SUV coupe as the other competitors, for example. So, and then you also have here, can adjust the inclination right there, and also can move this bench forward. And then you have a little bit longer trunk or backward again. So very flexible and very comfortable. How it is in the Q7, SQ7. First of all, we have the gray design here once again, which looks a little bit nicer. In this case here we have the manual shade for the rear. And you'll see you have the similar legroom as well. You can adjust these seats individually. So let me get inside, and this would be then, the most backward position, still a lot of legroom, but I feel even that the seat is a little bit more forward to ensure the third seating row. So it seems like we had a little bit more legroom in the Q5, Q8. Again, the wheelbase is the same, it's just how the seats are being positioned. A lot of headroom, even more than in the Q8. It also goes back on to the to the further part. You can also slide this forward and backward. And again, here this individually done. There's a difference here too. You can have a different lever here. This is one difference. And again, sitting in the middle part does work, and it's also quite comfortable. So especially when you put it all the way back. So it's easy to put 5 tall adults in here. And then I slide it here in the forward position. I could still sit like this here, legroom wise. Now the question is, what about the third seating row? And there's a trick for that. So we first have to fold down this back part like this, and then push here, move it like this. Then there's a hydraulic help or gas strut help. And then you can take a look here at the third seating row. Of course, it's somewhat close. It's not the longest vehicle for that. And if the seat is in the most backward position, I could not fit in there. But let's just try. I have moved the other half there, a little bit more to the front. If it's somehow possible, I squeeze myself in here and I smell these comments with timestamp. Thomas in the rear seat, Thomas in the third row seat. Not sure how we should call it. So, yeah, that's close. I mean, there's like gaps where you can put your feet, and yeah, a little bit squeezed in, but it does work. And in this configuration, I could really sit here and behind this. So I think, yeah, I mean, why not? And they also thought of Isofix here on the third seating row, so you can use it also for child seats, for example. And headroom, it's still okay when I leave my spine relaxed. Only when I put my spine up, then I do hit the head right there. But that's definitely the main difference here. SQ8, SQ7, you're more flexible. You can go for this third seating row to just have, you know, more possibilities. With the engines, so the SQ8 and the SQ7 was so far, at least in Europe, offered them with turbo diesel. But now I decided to go back with the petrol engines again, looking at the whole worldwide market that the performance SUV is rather bought than also with a petrol engine. So what do we have here is a 4-liter V8 bi-turbo, cylinder on demand, mild hybrid, both inside for fuel economy. But for power output, you have here 507 horsepower, 770 Newton meters of torque, and the acceleration figure is 4.1 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. If you compare, for example, an SQ8 to an RSQ8, is 0.3 seconds, is the RSQ8 faster and 100 horsepower more. But for that, you pay 25,000 euros more. Here, the SQ8, for example, 100,000 euros in Germany without extra equipment, or $90,000 in the US. But of course, with these big Audi vehicles, usually you can easily add some 30k options to the base price. Welcome to Thomas's Active Driving Lounge with the Audi SQ8 versus SQ7. We start with the SQ8 here on the test track. And let's just floor it out acceleration-wise and do some dynamic driving. Let's go. Well, that was already 160 kilometers an hour. Wow, that was spectacular. You could already even see like how the car is lifting up in the front. Really cool. It's of course a heavy SUV. But still, for such a heavy SUV, good driving dynamics. We have the ESC Sport mode. Actually, we have the ESC Off mode, have we? So here we're about 50 kilometers an hour. And see in the slalom. And yeah, this again, look how precise it is steering-wise. Incredible. We just exit here. Wow, that was pretty cool. So very precise from the steering wheel. So there's no dead area here whatsoever. Every single command is being transported. Really amazing. The steering setup is one of the best there is, not only for SUVs but also for cars in general. Of course, here in these corners, when accelerating out, you feel it's a rear wheel bias from this all-wheel drive, so there's no understeering or something. but you definitely do feel the weight of this vehicle. It is a big SUV, so you cannot compare really to sports cars, yes, but we also have this anti-tilt or anti-roll control in here. So considering it's a high-built car, you see it's hardly leaning at all. It stays really, really upright. And by the way, we can also see the difference here. ESC Sport, that's the one step. So if we go to the slalom here in ESC Sport, let's see what the car is doing. So sometimes I feel that it's like there's some interference. Oh, one of these I got. So when I put it completely off, so I hold it, that's of course just for racetrack purposes. Then I can do a little bit more with the vehicle, and it just feels a little bit more loose. And there you also hear some tire squeaking. So yeah, subtle difference definitely, but interesting to experience it. And again, when I do some accelerating out of the corner here, like this. Yeah, very smooth, very nice also sound-wise. So really amazing what this big SUV can do here. Difference to the RS Q8. The RS Q8 was even more screaming from the exhaust. Hardware-wise, it's difference on the front axle. So the front axle is a little bit crisper on the RS Q8. The hardware components then suspension-wise, they are actually quite the same. So yeah, this one is not as stiff suspension-wise, so a little bit softer. So we have, let's say a little bit smoother setup in comparison. So, but here, no matter what you want to do, it's very precise, as was deemed this one of the key features here. So RS Q8, not worth 25,000 euros more, definitely not. This one is already coming very close. But if you want it even sportier, even a little bit crisper and stiffer, then the RS Q8 would be fine. However, both SQ8 and RS Q8 still deliver a good comfort. We're here in the sports or the dynamic mode, and still we have a good comfort feeling. And even if you just drive it in the auto and in the comfort mode and so on, here, due to this optional anti-roll control, you see, it's hardly shaking up. So even just in the comfort mode, it's very sporty. And at any time, you can just throw it out like this. Not so much sound feedback like in dynamic mode. Comparison here, dynamic mode. Yeah, I think that got quite clear. Also, the RPMs are turned up higher and so on. Shifting characteristics are being changed. So very impressive what they've done here with this big SUV. So, wow. And now we switch over to the SQ7, and interesting, we have the more classic gauges here. The other gauges were these performance gauges, but you can just pick them in the infotainment system which design you want to have, but you can see both very clearly. Let's see if there's any difference in driving between the SQ8 and the SQ7. Let's just do the very same. Plop, that's 160 again, and you really see, how these gears were hammered in. Very interesting. Definitely a lot of fun to accelerate these out. And let's now also go into this slalom, see if there's any difference here. Yeah, I think the ESC is ruling a little bit earlier, so let's test. That was ESC Sport. Let's test it with the ESC off. Now ESC is off. So let's see about that. That's better. That's better, yeah. But yeah, I have to say, it does feel a little bit different, right? Michelle, what do you think? So to me, the SQ8 felt a little bit sportier. I think, when you're just doing the acceleration, just running straight, there's hardly any difference here. Accelerate out of the corner. Yeah, that's very powerful. But I think in the slalom, you did feel a difference. So first of all, I felt that the ESC would work earlier. Maybe it's, it's just me, but definitely the SQ8 had a little sportier notch, but I think you rather feel it when you really push it like you would have the test track here. On the normal open road, not necessary that you would feel a big difference. Here we get now a little bit faster in this slalom. See, high entry speed, so I have to work a little bit more. Wow, but I mean, this, again, a huge SUV, and you have very good control over it. So once again, this precise steering is something that is, yeah, to me, one of the coolest things here. Also here, let's drive a little bit faster. Lane change at about 100 kilometers an hour. Wow, so easily done once again. And also listen to the noise insulation. So when, once again, accelerating out of the corner. Nice sound. And here, for example, typical motorway speed, 130 kilometers an hour. When I shift up, very silent. What a great noise insulation. So it's super, super silent in here. So this is also one of the things that is famous for the Q7 in general. This very good noise insulation. Yeah. And it's so relaxing to drive at the same time. You don't need much force in the steering, for example. So, yeah. Look at that. However, indeed, I'm a little surprised. I would have thought that they are exactly the same as for driving. They do come very close, but I think setup-wise, the SQ8 does give us a little sportier notch, so really holds what it promises just from the visual part. Doesn't mean that this is less sporty or so on. And of course, there's always the limitation with these vehicles. You still feel the weight, you still feel the heaviness of this SUV. Here in acceleration, this is just sports car-like, no doubt, but as soon as you go into the corners, then there is a difference to a low-sitting sports car. You just have to know that, and that's something you can find out here on the track. And one of the coolest things is also with this rear axle steering. So when we're at at like these lower speeds, this is also why the slalom is working that well here at about like 50 or like 40 kilometers an hour. Then the rear axle is really helping us. And here, for example, also with a turning circle when we're driving a little bit slower. So like this here, I mean, this is crazy. It feels like that we are doing a circle with a very, very small vehicle. Michelle likes that. So yeah, this is one of the best things with the rear axle steering. So it is expensive, yes, but if I would pick one option to make life easier with a bigger vehicle, the axle steering it is. And now to some street driving of the SQ8. So more relaxed manner, but yeah, what is relaxed in this vehicle? It can be, of course, at any time. But of course, you can also, once again, at any time, tune it up. And you do not necessarily have to pick the drive mode. This is also a difference to the RS Q8, where you have the RS button at the steering wheel, which is quite cool, of course. But here, you have to use this drive select, which is sometimes a little bit hard to do while driving. However, you can also use it just in the auto mode. And, let's say, oh, you want to do like a faster acceleration now, like here 40 to 80 or 40 to 100, which we can do. Then you just use the shifting lever and switch from D to S shifting mode. Then you already have the, the transmission set up, and then it also goes quicker, or in third gear, like this. Plop, that's already it. So yeah, that always works, no problem. And you can of course use the shifting pedals, shift down, and that's always very nice. At the same time, just go back to the D to the auto mode, and then the engine can also be actually quite silent. And we'll also tell you something more about the fuel economy, because this is also with the cylinder deactivation and the MHEV technology mild hybrid. So because you won't be racing this car all the time, you do have the power on demand. We've shown you that on the racetrack, well, on the test track, but probably that's not how you would use this car all the time, but also just for relaxed driving. And this is possible, again, with this great noise insulation, plus then this very sovereign ride. When you have a big engine, but let it run at lower RPMs, it also feels pretty relaxing. That's the thing, so it's not necessary that you only have the sporty use of that. Interesting, by the way, that the tires here of the SQ8 are always bigger indeed, not in the sense of wider, but in the sense of higher. So on the one hand, we have the 23-inch wheels here mounted. It's of course an option compared to the 22-inch we have on the SQ7. And you can also drive both cars with the same size. But here then, still they have more tire left, although we have the bigger alloy. And that's very interesting because on the one hand, this car feels a little bit sportier mainly due to the bigger wheels. On the other hand, because they're also higher, you then have again more dampening from the rubber, which again ensures the comfort you still have with the bigger alloys. A little bit complicated maybe, but also interesting. So, designers mainly took that decision because they just want to have a bigger look, a more, substantial look for the Q8 in general, and especially for the SQ8, whereas the Q7 or even the SQ7 is supposed to look a little bit more sporty, elegant still, But I think that really works. And I can just stress again with this air suspension here, you still have some comfort even though we have 23-inch wheels, which is very, very rare. Of course, you do feel, some stuff on the ground than here, but it's still very, very, very okay. If you want more comfort, you would leave it with the base wheel size each, then you have even more, tire dampening there from the rubber. But of course, it's always a question of design versus comfort. And this sporty steering is not only helping, sporty steering, but also just in everyday driving life because you can keep your hands on the steering wheel all the time, you don't have to grab around and so on. Parking in and out is also relatively easy, for example. And once again, when you don't hit the throttle, you hardly hear the engine. It's very well insulated from the whole vehicle. As for the visibility, by the way, still works very well with the Q8. So also, the visibility to the rear, for example, no problem at all. Then the cruise control you can activate here with a separate column next to the steering wheel. And this is also the predictive cruise control. So there's traffic sign recognition in there. I also see it in the head-up display at the moment, 60 kilometers an hour. And also when I, for example, approach the next town or the next intersection or the next roundabout, the car will automatically decrease the speed so that fuel is saved and you don't have unnecessary acceleration and then unnecessary braking once again. So the predictive cruise control is also working very well. Blind spot monitor is also included right here. There's no Autobahn situation here at the moment where we would have overtaking cars or something, but there will be a flashing light then here in the side mirrors. So the assistance systems, they work very well in this vehicle. And here also I'm not braking at the moment. See if it's reducing to 0. Of course I'm staying alert that in case I did not press the brake at all, and now I did not hit the accelerator. You can see it also works in traffic situations. Sensors are working very well. Here, I'm not doing anything. It's not me. It wasn't me. So here, yet again, very well done. Braking and accelerating also in traffic situations. All done by the adaptive cruise control. Now has realized we are inside a village, reducing it to 50 kilometers an hour, traffic signs recognition. Here reducing even more again due to the distance to the car in front of us. So far flawless assistance systems, very cool. And here on the left upper column then, you can also activate the lane keeping assist, the more sophisticated one. And this would be a thing then, for example, on the motorway that you really kept in the lane. And now SQ7 road driving. Let's see if there's any difference. And we'll also talk about the fuel economy. And when you're driving in the road, basically there's hardly any difference you feel between SQ7 and SQ8. It's really more about the wheel choices. This is something that has more a crucial effect on driving. But here, once again, it's a big SUV and it feels so light on the test track. There you do feel the weight when you really push it, but on the open road here, countryside, you hardly feel the weight because there are not so many G-forces being applied. And what else we could do here, for example, is stay in the normal mode and then don't use the S shifting mode, but just use the shifting pedals to shift down and have the acceleration by that. For example, go back to the second gear. Really nice. And by the way, just again, the difference when I'm in the dynamic mode, you see how the gears are, really hammered in. Like bam, So this is a difference that you also feel more that the shifting is taking place. Other than that, the shifting is very, very subtle, very smooth transition, then you hardly feel them. Oh, this is here the day, obviously, where I let all the cyclists pass by. Yeah, I mean, we're all cyclists at the same time, so from what I've learned is you always respect the weaker, participant in the traffic, so always the one that's weaker than you, and so we always yield to cyclists, of course, even if we're like in this super strong SUV. Yeah, but that's what it's again about. Such a relaxing and calm ride when you want it, but of course, once again, power when you need it. Let's take a look at the updated Audi Q8, because recently Mercedes GLE and BMW X5 have been updated. Can Audi say something about this? What have they done? Let's take a look with Thomas Nautic Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Here with an upgraded front grille. When you have the S-Line, you have these L forms here in the front grille. Everything with more black design, especially if you have the optional black package, which this vehicle is also equipped with. The standard front grille would have more vertical fins on the inside. Then here the two-dimensional Audi rings. Audi goes for this new CI, corporate identity, basically. Saphir Gold is this new color also. Saphir, this desert around the Bahrain racetrack. And yeah, this was the most fitting shirt I could find for you today. Updated headlamps also. So the logic here is normal LED, then matrix LED, and optional HD matrix LED with laser lights. And the latter ones you all can see here. And even in the front, you can already pick different light designs to individualize your vehicle. Towards the side profile, here the length has been unchanged, 4.99 meters or 196 inches. The Q8, as I said, typical competitor of the X5 or the GLE. Wheels now start already at 20-inch, up to 23-inch. These here are 22-inch wheels, so not the biggest ones, not the smallest one. Let's see how the riding comfort is. In the S-Line here also painted wheel arches. So in the vehicle color, the base version would come still with the contrasting wheel arches. In the black package, you also have the black mirrors here. Technology-wise, already the standard suspension is an adaptive suspension, so an adaptive steel suspension. Optional, also this vehicle is equipped with it, the adaptive air suspension. Of course, then you have a wider span between comfort and sportiness. And you also get a rear axle steering. Then the rear wheels turn up to 5 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels. The SQ8 would also offer an anti-tilt control and a sports differential at the rear. New tail lamp design and also OLEDs here in this lower part. Have you seen that? These are the proximity sensors. In our studio shots where it was a little bit darker, you can even better see that, how it reacts. And even then in the rear, you can once again pick the individual light signature as design. I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, but then again, it's always an option, so the base vehicle won't have that. But the base vehicles will have this top update here also, and also this, this light strip that goes all the way across. Once again, two-dimensional Audi rings. And then in the lower part, the contrast, the Q8 logo here. This one means that is the S-Line, and the SQ8 would just have the added S-dent. So what do you think? Do you like the outgoing model better, or do you like this refresh? And who would have thought that lights one day become a buying or purchase argument for individual brands? Audi wants to stress like, hey, we are the king of lighting, and that's why they also play once again here with these cascading turning indicators, at least in the highest trims. And even fancier it is actually here in the front. Look at that, with this segmented cascading, and a massive success for the Audi Q4 Fake Exhaust Police. Thank you so much in the name of the Audi Q4 Fake Exhaust Police for supporting it for all these years, because now Audi have switched away from fake exhaust
2 real exhaust tips once again. Since you also always ask about our locations where we film today, we are really lucky to film outside of Cape Town, so best greetings especially to our South African viewers today. And behind me is so-called Camps Bay. I think this beautiful beach here, so yeah, very fitting to our vehicle color today also. This is the car key here, slim and light, we know that. And look at here, the B-pillar. They have the model naming here now, not to have too many badges on the exterior, so the days of over-badging on the exterior is obviously gone. Then frameless doors with dual installation. Oh, there we go, door closing sound. So you see here, it needs more push actually because of the good installation here. And then it sounds really awesome. That's really rare that a frameless door sounds great. Inside of the door here with microfiber inserts, and I like this galvanization tip here for the window levers, and even they have a clicking sound here when you open or close them. Yeah, these deals I really love. S-line badge you can already see then in the lower part. So we also have S-line interior as well as on the steering wheel, perforation at the side. And these seats here are the best ones you can get actually for the Q8 with the microfiber, also with this special structure on the inside. These are the normal sport seats, and I would definitely go for them. But they're still lagging behind, especially in comparison to BMW, who is offering better materials. They're more sustainable, more animal friendly, and also better in the whole feeling and so on. But these ones are actually then the best. And seating comfort here with 189 or 6'2". A lot of headroom left. This is the one without panoramic roof. You can also get one. And you have good ergonomics, full-size SUV position. Yeah, really feeling it, definitely. Interior cockpit overview. The refreshing thing about this update is that it is not all new, because classic user interface here with the volume control, the steering wheel, then also physical controls to control the digital instruments. There we have some news. For example, when I hit the turning indicator, we have this nicer visualization on the inside now. And then we have this split screen. This is the top infotainment screen, and the lower part is for the climate unit. Yes, I do always prefer physical climate dials, but for a digital solution here, it is fairly easy to use. I don't quite get this new menu tile in the software. This looks to me confusing. This here is very obvious, and then you have just, for example, the car features, or you go back to the home menu, and here the Apple CarPlay integration, wired or wireless. The same goes for Android Auto. An optional Bang & Olufsen sound system. Yeah, I think good sound quality. Not the most super spectacular ever, but actually very decent. In the middle console, I really like this large shifting lever, pretty cool. Then here, adaptive cup holders, very good build quality. And also here, the middle console with this cover, leather red, and then you fold it up and down like this. And here, you have space then for the smartphone connection, now all in USB-C. Well, I did find an issue here with the middle console. Look at that, this large thing here underneath. It is there that it has this, this effect that you can also fold this whole thing up and down a little bit and slide it forward at the same time. But the problem is, it's so large down there. When you have your smartphone here in the inductive charging pad, it does overheat because it has no cooling. Then you say, I want to connect it with the cable, and then you connect it like this, for example. And then you have to say like, okay, where is the exact space for my smartphone? Like this, maybe. And then how does it fit when it's modern large smartphone? And when you then would put it down, you would smash your smartphone, or then stuff like this happens. Yeah.
No, I'm not farting. It's that the seat is just too close to the middle console and it's squeaking. So either put it far away or add some fabric here on the outside.
Rear doors also frameless, and then you have this electric shade you can put up and down just by pressing the window lever one more time. This doesn't go down further, but here I think it's a very nice and elegant solution. When I sit behind the driver's seat when I'm driving, I still have enough legroom left. This platform is pretty cool, and then you can adjust the seating angle like here when you pull this lever. This is also the way you fold it completely down for the trunk, and you can also vary the trunk length like this if you want more trunk length, or here if you want most legroom. Even in the middle part you can sit very well. In comparison to the Q7, it's not too big of a compromise. Of course, the Q7 has a little bit more trunk space and so on. And then possible 7-seater. And here in the middle part, you have a nice climate unit also for the rear. It is somewhat with capacitive BS, but then again, you also have at least some
clicking sounds.
Let's take a look at the trunk measurements, electric hatch, and then we have a good meter or 40 inches in width and even a little bit more than a meter or 40 inches in length. Here, you can see I already folded one part. You can also split individually, but you have to do it from the rear. You cannot unfold them here. The only thing you can do is actually lower it for better loading in and out when you have the air suspension. And in the front part here, you have another small hole, for example, but yeah, you could also have a replacement tire there if you like. As for engines, in Europe you still get the 3-liter V6 diesel. This one here, worldwide the most important engine, the 3-liter V6 turbo petrol engine, 55 TFSI, 340 horsepower, 5.6 seconds is the acceleration figure. Standard quattro overdrive, that means an overdrive with a rear wheel bias. If you want it even quicker, then there would be the SQ8 with 4.1 seconds in the acceleration figure from the acceleration figure, and that is then from this 4-liter V8. Acceleration. Plop, that was 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. Pretty quick, felt nice, also rear biased acceleration from the overdrive. The Lia meter was also active. Thank you for that. There's always really good to give you a sense of speed, especially if you do not feel the G-forces over the video. So here in the dynamic mode, the air suspension is also set a little bit stiffer and have more feedback from the road. And here when the road is very even, that's pretty cool. And we have beautiful roads here with a nice view. The thing is, when the air suspension is stiff here, in dynamic mode, and you have the 22-inch wheels mounted, yes, it feels cool and sporty. However, it is then also not the most comfortable experience when you're driving over some bumps. So that always depends then on the road condition. As I said, here is absolutely fine, when it's not destroyed or something. But I feel this setup here, and especially with the bigger wheels, you do lose comfort. So you have to be aware of that. So that is definitely an SUV that does have this sporty focus here. Really nice reaction from the steering wheel here. No dead zone, whatever. So I have a very fine feeling for the car. I like that. So it feels very, very well balanced. The rear axle steering helps me when we're driving slower speeds and so on. And it's also not feeling artificial at all. Very good here also when I'm doing some slalom left and right. Once again, the balance and the feeling for the car, that is what is very, very good. And assistance systems here on this countryside road, which is even more crucial, because can this vehicle here keep the lane even if it's more in this bend? Here so far, pretty smooth. Now on the right side, I always keep the control of the vehicle. See here, this one car didn't get. Maybe it's also because one line is yellow, one line is white or something. So yeah, never trust 100% in it. And mainly it's used for Autobahn purposes. But I like to try it also here on countryside lanes because the very, very good systems also do that then in this case here. It is a good system, yes, but you see at some point it also has its limits. When you, by the way, want to switch back again here, for example, you can click in the lower part. Not the best selection here to pick the driving modes, or then here like this, click on the screen. Yeah, then here you can go to the comfort mode. In the comfort mode then, some more softness from the suspension then, and also the steering becomes a little bit lighter overall. So this is probably the everyday setting, I would say. It still feels sporty. And I would definitely set the suspension to comfort because otherwise it just gets too rough in bumpy sections and so on. So to me the cool thing is always that although it's a large and heavy SUV, because of the great balance, it always feels somewhat lighter and easier to control basically. Here we know at really slow speeds I feel more from the rear axle steering, but considering it is in rear axle steering, it feels very natural how it reacts and so on. So I've always loved the driving feeling of the Q8, and the updated version here makes no difference to that actually. Yeah, for me it's always pretty strange, of course, here with the left-hand drive traffic, and in a way even stranger to drive left-hand steering wheel with left-hand traffic. Usually you have the other one, like the right-hand steering with the left-hand traffic and vice versa and so on. But I mean, yeah, after all you get used to that. It's all adding up to the experience.
Changing the temperature, by the way, here while driving is not too bad. So as I said earlier, although it's digital, you can do it actually quite well also while driving. Although physical control always needs no looking at all. Brake feeling also really nice, so you know exactly what you're doing at any time, or when you want to control the volume and so on. I like this classic user interface of the vehicle. You can also use the shifting pedals here to shift down yourself, for example for engine brake when you're going downhill for a longer period of time, or if you want some more RPM, and then you can directly accelerate it out. Yeah, sound-wise I have to say, rather step downwards, but you know, with these new days particle filters, which are also great to keep the particles in, sound has been decreased. Again, for the US versions this will then be a little bit different. So if I could suggest something, I think although it has air suspension, sometimes in potholes too rough. So what can you do against it? I mean, even if you're in a comfort mode here, the only thing you would actually do is pick smaller wheels. Not even the biggest one on this one here, but I think 20 or 21 inches maybe then the best compromise, that you have some cool look still, but you just have a little bit more driving comfort. So my driving impressions here from Chapman's Peak Drive. If you're in the Cape Town area at some point, you should take this road, one of the most beautiful roads in the world, definitely. And here it's more about enjoying the scenic views, and the view outside the vehicle, from the inside to the outside, is actually pretty decent. So I have a good feeling of where the car is ending at every side, and that's not the same with all new vehicles, that you exactly know, have a feeling for the dimensions. But even if you look to the rear there and so on, or to the back mirror, there's no problem at all. And that also shows that the Q8, among this like almost SUV coupe segment, the X6 would of course also be a competitor, or the GLE coupe. The Q8 sits somewhat in between, I would say, but these true coupe silhouette SUVs, they have less overview than when you're sitting on the inside, but that's actually fine here with the Q8. Here also, when the bends are a little bit tighter, rear axle steering is helping me. Is also, by the way, a factor for parking in and out. Maybe you've heard that, just like there was a bump in the road. That's what I meant. You know, when I have an air suspension, I just want a little bit more comfort out of the vehicle. But that's the only thing I can really criticize here. Yeah, and probably also the fuel economy. So we will drive it a longer period of time. But it really seems to be that although it's mild hybrid system here now for the 6 cylinders, the 8 cylinder does not have that. And although it's not like the most fuel consuming engine of all time, and I know this engine for a very long time, but here obviously also when the AC has to work a lot, the consumption seems to go quite high, and we'll put it in the video description and in the comment below, in the pinned comment, and then tell you more about that. By the way, instead of choosing the driving modes, which sometimes can be complicated, you can just always pull the shifting lever here to the S shifting mode. Then you have a nicer acceleration immediately. That's actually pretty cool, and it's also an easy and quick way to be a little bit more spontaneous with it, and always pull it back. Also the sound feedback it gives you, right? And of course also clicking sounds and so on. Yeah, that brings me back to one of the crucial points, that the user interface is still really good, and you know exactly always what you are doing. A very special review with the new Audi Q8 e-tron, with a comparison of the SQ8 Sportback e-tron. Here with Thomas on Autogefühl for you in 4K, full screen and full length. Let's go! Where does it come from? How does it sit in between the competition, Tesla Model X, Mercedes EQE SUV, or the BMW iX? Let's take a look here at the front. And that's one of the things they have majorly changed. Exterior changes, technology changes later on. Here we can see the mask here around, and then the single frame grille inside. Before it was the Audi e-tron, their first electric big SUV, and now they say, hey, we have made so many e-tron models, we have to position it in the model portfolio. That's why it's now called Audi Q8 e-tron. To see, this is approximately the size also of the petrol version. From the inside color here, this is a special edition where you have the inside color with the matching exterior color here in Chronos Gray. but you can also get it in different colors, for example, blacked out in the black package as well. And also the frame is in different versions available. In the SQ8 it would be bright, for example. And the new design feature is also here, two-dimensional Audi rings. They take away the three-dimensional chrome look. They say mainly for design reasons, to make it more modern, up-to-date. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments. And then they have two versions. The background is always black, but then here this is like a gray ring, but you can also get it in the brighter styling. It looks very clean. However, I was also a fan of the real things you could touch, you know. So far in this segment here, it wasn't the most efficient vehicle overall. They have now improved that, for example, by increasing the aerodynamic efficiency. So now CD values of 0.24 or 0.26, depending on the Sportback or the SUV version. The Sportback is always better. Then here in the lower part, they also optimize the air breathers, or these air curtains. So the air goes in here, goes through the wheel arch. This has been optimized. And also how the wind is flowing in the underbody of the vehicle. Here at the inside of the grille, this one opens on demand, actually just when cooling is needed. Another efficiency measure. Styling-wise, by the way, here this lower part is more accentuated in the S-line, which we have right here, or than in the SQ8. Otherwise, in the base advanced line, it's a little bit smaller. And only from below you can see the wheel spoilers, and they are actually one of the best efficiency gains. Very interesting, right? Because they channel the air from here to the side away from the wheels, and that is bringing a lot of gains in efficiency. And have you actually seen this new detail? This light strip above the Audi rings? Right there. There we go. This looks really amazing, right? It's an option. And when you take a closer look right here, this is not the light strip. It is where it is mirrored in the paint. And it originates below. And that's the reason why it's legal, also in Europe. 4.92 meters or 194 inches is the length of the Q8 e-tron, and wheels come from 19 to 22 inch wheels. These ones here are 21 inch, also in an aerodynamic design, then here blacked out. Wheel arches are always painted either in vehicle color or in a contrasting dark gray tone. So they have also optimized the styling here, and also the model name is always indicated now here at the B pillar. Other than that, you have the base SUV shape or then the Sportback shape, and both versions, SUV or Sportback, are available then in different powertrain versions with different power output. What have they done with the batteries? Massive upgrade. The so far biggest battery has been increased and is now the small entry battery. And the bigger battery now is a completely new, even larger battery. So now you either get 89 kilowatt hours net for the 50 model, or for the 55 model and the SQ8 you get 106 kilowatt hours net. So that's an increase by 25 or 20 kilowatt hours depending on the battery. So massive increase. So you get plus 100 kilometers or plus 60 miles of range with this upgrade now. And what does that mean for the real-world driving range? We'll test this vehicle thoroughly throughout the next days, and then at the end of the driving part, we'll tell you about the final test consumption and then tell you about more about the real-world range. But it's way better than before. That's clear for sure already right now. Rear design here, light strip goes all the way through, modern tail lamp design, and then the lower part here in a contrasting style. This diffuser in the lower part is here more accentuated, and this is always the case in the S-line or in the SQ8. Driving dynamics wise, also massive changes. Reworked suspension, air suspension is standard, but the front axle is, a little bit stiffer from the setup especially. And then you can get, on top of the normal air suspension, a sportier air suspension setup that is standard for the SQ8 or then also for the S-line. For the S-line you can then again de-pick it, but not for the SQ8. Yes, this is the channel here where you know more details even before you go to the dealer. And recharging, the small battery, 150 kilowatt peak, 28 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. And the bigger battery, 170 kilowatt peak and 31 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. And that is indeed very good as for the improvement, because the batteries have become larger. So the time didn't really change that much. But since the batteries are so much larger now, this is also a significant improvement. Here, when you press this button, the charging flap opens, and there you have AC and then DC charging below. And here for the passenger side, you can also get an optional AC charger. Really cool solution. Also the flap is opening, closing, very premium alike. And a feature you would usually see, for example, where do we know it from? Yes, for example, from Rolls-Royce. Here, inside the wheel, the caps here, they can be turned actually. And yeah, you can maybe show it off to your friends and do like a Ferris wheel or something here. That looks also quite cool, right? But the function, of course, is that it stays upright even while driving. Let's take a look at that. And turning indicators, cascading style here, that looks always really fancy, doesn't it? And you also get the cascading turning indicator style for the front, at least when you order the most expensive headlamps. And acceleration figures, 6 seconds for the so-called 50 model, the Q8 e-tron 50. Then this one here, the 55, is 5.6 seconds, a little bit quicker. Both have 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. And then the SQ8, that one at 4.5 seconds with 3 electric motors, one in the front, 2 in the rear, and then also enables even better torque vectoring. These here, the all-wheel drive models, do torque vectoring by brake intervention. The SQ8 can do torque vectoring by one motor at the wheel, even just spinning quicker. That's of course a better form of torque vectoring. And now, I mean, look at that scenery here. The first scenery was amazing already. And that one, I mean, yeah, that's just beautiful. And also with beautiful color. This one is now ultra blue, a typical Thomas blue, we call it here on our channel, because this is my favorite color. This, these light blue colors. This one in here is now the SQ8 e-tron and also the Sportback version. Once again, you can get an SQ8, the sporty version, for both the normal SUV version and the Sportback. So it doesn't really matter. You can freely pick SUV or Sportback and SQ8 or normal Q8. Here, then the SQ8, you can see, standardly comes with the bright mask around here in this light gray. That looks really beautiful, and I would actually pick it in this very combination. I think also the ultra blue together with the bright accentuation right here just looks amazing. Also the bright inside grille in here. However, you could also go for an SQ8 and make the mask and even the grille in black if you prefer that more sinister look. And I also think it's a right choice here to go for the Audi rings, which are in white here. Always black background, but white then on top. It just looks more present. And I've seen some other vehicles, for example, in my back mirror yesterday, or when they were facing towards me, and when the Audi rings themselves are dark, it almost appears as they would be like diminishing, so you can't really see them. And that way you can still see, hey, I'm driving an Audi. Styling-wise, S-Line and SQ8 are similar right here with these wider openings for the air curtains. Otherwise, they are just like this in the size. But then exclusively to the SQ8, you get wider tires, and then they also have to make the wheel arches wider, like here, this bit. But then again, they have some aerodynamic function right here, so the air can flow through. Now in the side profile, also 21-inch wheels, but different styling. And here we also have the Sportback version to show you. Falling roof line, really sensual, also with stronger hip area. Would you actually go for the standard SUV version, or would you rather pick the Sportback? Which one do you prefer styling-wise? Tell me in the comments. Then air suspension is here always set on the sportier node, but you also get it, as I said earlier, with the S-Line trim. And then you can depick it, but you cannot depict the sporty setup for the air suspension here in the SQ8. However, it is still an SQ8 and not an RSQ8, so they still have some compromise between sportiness and comfort. There is no RSQ8 for the electric version. You have to go then, once again, for the petrol engine still. But here I think this combination works very well. Usually I'm more a fan of the normal SUV versions, but in this case here, yeah, I think the Sportback just has this sportier touch. But is it any bad? Is it a bad compromise? As for the interior, rear and trunk and so on, we'll find out later in the interior part. And in the rear, once again, a stronger presence for the Sportback version, especially in that 3/4 rear perspective right there. Cool look, isn't it? And then the SQ8 version has the silver contrast right here. I think that works very well with stamped in e-tron badging here. The lower part, this diffuser, is the same in the S-Line and also in the SQ8. So also from the rear, is it more the SUV style or Sportback for you? Tell me in the comments. The wide Audi rings, I think once again, work just better. They have more presence here also at the rear. And although they have this two-dimensional look, they are three-dimensional in a way and to be touched at the rear. What about this badging? They have indeed also changed the badging. On the right side, there's now never anything. 50, 55 model, you can't see anything right there. But on the left side, a normal Q8 e-tron, standard one, would have this badge, just Q8. If you pick the S-Line for the Q8, it would be like this, the red Audi Sport logo with the Q8. And then if you have the SQ8, it looks exactly like this. So this here basically indicates an S model or also an S-Line, and it's not placed, you know, this old S-Line badge at the side, that one is also gone. Key fob here with the e-tron badge. It's a really nice key fob. It's not new, but still does the job very well. Then door closing sound. Really solid. Love that perfect door closing sound. And the interior materials here, soft touch on the top part, a nice microfiber insert here in the S-Line. This is also softer for your elbow, but could be a little bit softer, I think. And the lower part, this was better recently in the Tesla Model X, where this was also covered here. It's just, like a hard pack material. And then here, look at that. These are the digital mirrors. They are an option, and they cannot be bought in the US. And that's actually a good thing, because I think they're a bad idea. Yeah, everyone. They're placed too low in the vehicle. They should be higher and more central towards the driver. And in general, normal mirrors give you a 3D image of your surrounding, basically, to me, in your head. Even though if European mirrors are also better than the US ones that are kind of like zoomed in the driver's mirrors, it's also a little bit weird. But these camera mirrors are always, let's say, less realistic, even in nighttime. I think it's overall a bad idea indeed. What's your take on that? Seating position, the seat ergonomics actually is pretty good. Here, 1.89 m or 6'2", still leaves a lot of headroom. A panoramic roof is also available. Steering here, in this case with perforations at the side. S-Line, also red contrast stitches on the inside. And this volume jog here, for example, real buttons at the steering wheel. I love that. There's no other material than animal skin available. And the same also counts for the seats in the US. And that's, of course, really hit and miss. In Europe, we also get microfiber on the inside and red on the outside for S-Line and the SQ8 and the base fabric seat. But in general, Audi needs to step up the game. Tesla Model X is completely animal-free. BMW iX offers a lot of different choices. And also Mercedes is better in this respect as for, offering also some things worldwide, for example, for the EQE SUV. So this is where Audi is lagging behind. They have missed the chance to change something here in the interior. The interior setup here is really clean indeed. You have this integrated screen, 10.1 inch, the other one 8.6 inch below, and they can also play together in a way. E-tron badging right there. This is very interesting structure on top of that. And then you have digital instruments as well, Audi virtual cockpit, and also how everything is processed. The build quality is really very nice. It has been more or less the same setup from the beginning, and we also know it like from Audi A6 and the Audi A7, A8, and so on. Digital instruments, clear to read, I really love them, and the map can be here full screen. However, the thing is, it's only the map from the car internal GPS, and you cannot get Apple Maps or Google Maps in there or something. And the head-up display is always a great little helper. Special to the Q8 e-tron interior is here the shifting reverse and drive. It works, but you have to question yourself, why? Why not make it classic? And this flying middle console here, meanwhile here this part in between is a little bit narrow for big modern smartphones, at least when you use this cable connection here. Underneath you have cup holders that can also be pushed inward, and you have more space to have a power supply. To me, too much clutter actually. And on the left part here, this is then the inductive charging pad, like on this side. Well, here this armrest is very well attached. You cannot move it left or right. And then another place for your smartphone could be down there then. I really like the infotainment system because it has this simple main menu. The other one I don't fancy that much. And the car internal GPS has a nice satellite view. Here today also on a very beautiful volcanic origin island. Here when we zoom out, it's the island of Lanzarote in the Canaries. It's a really, really beautiful one here. That's Lanzarote, and these are the other Canary Islands, and they are actually, you can see here, on the coast of Morocco, almost, towards the equator. So it's really nice and pleasant here, always when weather and good for filming. And the lower screen is my favorite capacitive AC unit. I always prefer real buttons, but for a screen solution, it's relatively easy to handle, like with clicking or sliding, and it's large, so you can't miss the things. And for example, when you want to adjust here, like left and right, you do like the swiping, closing gesture, and then you have everything synchronized. Seat heating is, for example, here in the lower part. So this, to me, for a screen solution, a good one. This is the drive selector that you can change the driving modes. That is not placed that well. It should be different, or maybe at the steering wheel or something. And once again, what I mean with the digital mirrors, usually you look here for the side mirrors, the normal ones. But here now you look down and it's always distracting. You lose attention from the road. So if you use screens for this solution, they rather should be put up right here. You know what I mean? Very nice comfort indeed. Enough headroom with 189 or 6'2", and also enough leg room. Good package and also decent comfort while seating. And you fold down this, and then you have, for example, cup holders. They are also adaptive, like this. And then in the lower part here, it's a very nice climate unit. And listen to that, with nice clicking sounds. Although this is also like this capacitive area. And the trunk or boot. Wait a minute. When we later talk about the frunk, we say frunk or fruit. Sorry, I had to go for this one. But here for the trunk or the boot, here the normal length is like 1.7 meters or 42 inches. And the width here is, well, between the wheel arches here even, that's even quite good. Once again, 1.7 meters or 42 inches, so good measurements. And also here in height, this is like 71 centimeters or 28 inches. Capacity is 530 liters for the Sportback, 570 liters, a little bit more here for the SUV. Cool thing is that here, when you lift this one up, you have even more space, once again, for charging cables or replacement tire. And you can also easily fold the seats from here for the maximum length, which is then here at over 1.80 meters or 72 inches. German electric vehicles tend not to have a frunk, but this one does offer one. For example, in here, space for the charging cables. Why not? That's actually decent. And I wonder why other competitors like the BMW iX or the Mercedes EQE SUV don't have one. I don't know. Then does this one here, since we are in front of the hood here, affect the petrol engines in any way? This one here, the Audi Q8 e-tron, is the EV version. Once again, an SUV or Sportback, then different powertrain outputs and so on. But it does not affect the petrol range. The normal Q8, SQ8, RSQ8, this will remain the same. They do have something in common, technology parts and so on, but it will run parallel the EV lineup and the combustion engine lineup. Sportback interior now in the rear. What is the difference? Headroom wise, I had, like in the normal SUV version, like this space above my head still. And here, I do fit in here, but then I can just put a hand over my head. So yes, you lose headroom here in the Sportback version in the rear. However, tall adults can still sit here without problem. So it's not a big compromise, only if you have Michael Jordan guests in here in the rear. By the way, about the front, Sportback SUV, no difference in the interior. And also SQ8 with the normal Q8, also basically no difference in the interior. What about the trunk of the Sportback version? Opens really high as well. I can stand underneath it, no problem. And you have the same great access to the trunk. Here, this one is fixed. You can remove it here, however, completely if you like. And you see, it's very usable too. The thing is, you're not limited in height right here, just limited a little bit in height right here. So only if you have long things, but at the same time are super high in the back area, then it would be a problem. Otherwise, I think you can live with this compromise, can't you? Welcome everyone. Let's accelerate. That was 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour with the 55 model. So the official figure is 5.6 seconds. We got to check the time code below. Reasonably quick. 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. And wow, we have a beautiful scenery on the island of Lanzarote. Wow, this is really impressive. And let's start with the strength of this model. And one of them is definitely noise insulation. It's really silent as for the wind noises around. And one of the weaknesses is, especially at lower speeds, you tend to get some low frequency sounds, especially when you're running over some bumps and so on. And they haven't changed that with the facelift here of the model. So that is on the con side. And the thing is that you especially hear them because it's otherwise so silent. You know, you won't hear them when you listen to music or something, or when you drive faster. But when you drive at slower speeds, then they come quite apparent. One of my favorite strengths of this vehicle is the steering. So here, left and right, it's super precise. And they have also updated it in this very facelift or update, because they have made the front axle, let's say, in a more reacting, stiffer way, and also changed the steering ratio. So you have to steer less, and Audi steerings in general are already quite progressive. But here then they are even more progressive. So small commands are directly transported to the road. At the same time, also when you're driving straight, it is a very relaxing thing, definitely. So you can both drive comfortably in parking in and out, and also in a very sporty way. I like when there's no dead zone area here, and the car is really reacting very precisely. They have also updated the air suspension, and this vehicle we're driving at the moment basically has the suspension setup from the air suspension of the SQ8. That means you can either get this base air suspension or pick the sporty version of the air suspension. And in that case, especially the front axle gets a stiffer setup once again. And we feel that when turning in, that feels even sportier than before. However, I have to say, when you now think about, would I need to change my Audi e-tron to the Q8 e-tron because of the suspension and driving dynamics? No, you'll be just fine. The main reason to switch to the new model is indeed the increased battery size. So as for the driving dynamics, it was great before. Now it is also awesome. So great driving dynamics always with this vehicle, no doubt. So here now, also in some bends, you have a lot of fun. Actually, it's really a lot of fun to drive. Suspension is also indeed doing a great job. If you should go for the sporty setup of the suspension, I'm not exactly sure. So if you want sportier driving fun, yes, you can already have that with a normal suspension setup here. This one, when you want it even stiffer, but I wouldn't say it's really necessary. I'm always a fan of combining comfort and sportiness. It's still doing that. But of course, with the normal suspension setup, you would have a little bit more comfort still. Here we are also with 21-inch wheels, and they also serve the purpose of being visually interesting, yes. But then again, when you have some bumps in the road, you feel them more in your lower back and something. Well, you have great scenery here for our driving part today, no doubt about that. So also when you think about efficiency and comfort, 19-inch, the smallest wheels would be way to go. With 19-inch wheels, it has the best A rating for the rolling resistance and also gives you the best comfort. So it's always a trade-off, definitely. You have to think about that. In general, about the competitors, it's a lot of fun here going over these humps and so on. Great volcanic landscape. When we think about the Tesla Model X, here we feel that the suspension is a little bit better in the Audi Q8 e-tron than in the Tesla Model X. And also in the X we had 22-inch wheels, and these also reduce the comfort while driving. So Tesla Model X with 20-inch wheels would also be better. Also the steering input here is so precise and so much fun to steer it around. This one here is really, really good in the Audi. And also if you think about the BMW iX or the Mercedes EQE SUV or EQS SUV, the Audi offers the best natural steering input. So I feel that it's most fun to steer the Audi. So this combination of steering and suspension is just awesome here. Probably one of the best things about this vehicle. Let's talk about the driving modes. Here, when I'm in dynamic mode, then the suspension is a little bit stiffer. In comfort mode, then it reacts a little bit softer actually to what's happening. So that's the way you can always fine-tune it a little bit more. I tend to keep it in the comfort mode, and you can also pick individual modes. For example, you can go to, this is when CarPlay is running, it's not switching there visually. So for example, you can go to the individual mode and there have like suspension on comfort, but then the steering on dynamic, that you have more resistance in the steering, but that you have the softer suspension. That would be, for example, my recommendation when you drive this car for a longer period of time or something. Other than that, the shifting mode, as we usually call them at Audi, D or S, usually defines how much are the RPMs turned up before the next shifting. Here, of course, it doesn't really have an effect on that, but the thing is that the throttle input is just changing. Here, like for example in D, slight throttle input. In S, there is like really instant throttle input, and that is indeed just more spontaneous to drive that one. When you have something in the front of you, then it's also about recuperation, and you can either do it with the brake pedal, then it's recuperating, or use the shifting pedal here and go for a stronger recuperation mode. In general, their philosophy is not really about one pedal driving, it's more about letting it roll. And when you lift your foot off the throttle and have this strong recuperation, then more is happening. And here you can also delete it again, so to speak. But the normal driving mode is hardly any recuperation. It's more this rolling or coasting effect. And when you, for example, have this cruise control set, then it's automatically doing that and so on. But they rather want you to have more like a combustion engine car feeling, that you use the brake pedal yourself. And it's always a matter of philosophy. I tend not to say that one of these is good or bad. It's just a question of how you prefer it, actually. And if you like it, you can also then activate it here and have a stronger recuperation right there. So yeah, actually, why not? So in driving, I think it's doing a phenomenal job indeed. It's, you really feel connected to the vehicle, low center of gravity. That's the thing, that you don't feel the weight of this car. These EV SUVs are super heavy indeed, especially when you make the batteries even a little bit larger. At the same time, due to the low center of gravity, you don't feel the negative effect of that much, actually. So now, once again, here on that road, let me show you another acceleration when I'm now doing like 45 to 90. Let's go. Let's go now. Plop. There we are. So that is also going really quickly. Is so effortless indeed. And the whole steering feeling, it's always a lot of fun, but you can always just go back to normal D-driving mode, pick the comfort setting or just the auto setting here, then the car is adjusting accordingly. The air suspension also, when you are in the dynamic mode, the air suspension lowers a little bit. So it's also better for fast driving. You get more stability and at the same time more dynamic character, or it goes up again when you are in the auto mode or in the comfort mode and so on. Then about the efficiency, that's still the thing. So our results so far already is saying that even though some things have improved, it will not be the most efficient car overall. What will it be at the end of the day? We will find out when we drive even further. But now let's compare, how does the SQ8 drive in comparison to this one here. Now the SQ8. Woo! And 100. Whoa. Whew. Okay. that's a notable difference. Whew, yeah, so 2 electric motors now in the back, and although on paper it's just this, like 1.5 seconds difference that you save approximately, even less. The difference was 5.6 versus 4.5 then here now. So yeah, barely a second difference, but it feels way quicker indeed. So get an instant push definitely from the get-go. So this additional electric motor really helps a lot. Interesting is that suspension-wise, from the setup, when you get the normal Q8 e-tron with the sporty air suspension in the S-line, and then also stick with it, it has the same suspension setup here than standard with the SQ8. So that's also then this stiffer setup here, and we have more precise steering, because especially the front axle has been stiffened up. But there's still a driving difference, and that is resulting from A, wider tires here in the SQ8, and B, here in the SQ8 we also have the dual motor setup here in the rear, so a triple motor setup in general, and that enables a better torque vectoring. So here we have an active torque vectoring, and this active torque vectoring can actually turn one wheel. For example, here when I'm going now in a left corner and I'm accelerating, then the right wheel on the outside here, the back wheel on the outside, can get more power and kind of push the car into the corner. But the other models, when you have just 2 electric motors, so one in the front, one in the rear, this is done by brake intervention, and has been the same recently shown with the Tesla Model X Plaid model, that also then gets the additional motor in the rear, and then you also have active torque vectoring. So that's the main difference. So the SQ8 will still feel sporty, and once again, the best thing about these vehicles is the steering is just so direct. It's awesome, so you don't have any dead zone area. It feels crisp. You can keep your hands at the steering wheel at all time. It's hardly a situation where you have to grab over because you have to steer more. You always are in control. One more time, from 70 to 100. Plop. That was already exceeding that. Wow. So it's really very quick. Of course, once again, no comparison to the Tesla Model X Plaid. That is just beyond limits, but very quick acceleration here too, and it is definitely more than enough. Then driving modes. We can also go back to the auto or the comfort mode. Then the air suspension is going up a little bit again with more dampening comfort. It's softer. This tarmac here is very rough. That's why you maybe also hear that's a little bit louder then, but that's not from the vehicle, that's really from the tarmac then here in this case. You can also use it for normal cruising and so on. All the assistance systems work very, very well. This is here the adaptive cruise control, and the good thing is you can activate or deactivate the active lane keeping assist just with a click of a button, and that's rarely what we see in the very, very new modern user interfaces. So I feel it's actually a good thing that this one is in not the all new platform as for the user interface. Here just like this, then adaptive cruise control assist, no lane guidance, or click again and then I have lane guidance. And for example, when I here steer a little bit left, car keeps in, and very very smooth process actually. So really fun of these assistance systems. But just once again with the digital mirrors, I'm just not a fan of it at all. Too small, placed too low down. Again, US viewers won't care about that at all because you get the normal mirrors anyway. And for everyone else, I can just tell you, don't buy this option. Stick with the normal mirrors. They don't bring you much more range or efficiency gains. That's a marketing myth. It's not a big difference. When you have good light conditions, it's of course better. As darker as it gets, the more problematic it is, I think. And you don't have this realistic image of your surrounding with that. So you're not just aware. And for example, when you're looking straight now, and let's imagine there would a car appear close to me, and even if I would look straight and there is a normal big side mirror, I'm still aware
it's like I'm looking straight, but I'm still somehow, oh, there's something moving in that big mirror. Okay, there's a car. But here, with the screens, you have no awareness at all of what's happening unless you directly look into it. So when I'm looking straight and something is happening here, I realize nothing what is happening here, like not at all. Once again, I have to intentionally look and concentrate on the screen. That can't be a good thing. So new tech, yes please, if it helps us, but no thanks if it doesn't help us, if it just makes things more complicated. And that's one of the case right here. But the best thing is that this vehicle here is all about the drive indeed, and from the driving fun, from the driving behavior, steering input, suspension feel, the combination of comfort and sportiness, the Audi Q8 e-tron, and especially even more the SQ8 e-tron, they are really top of the segment as for this driving fun and driving behavior. That is really so well done indeed. But it also has some other shortcomings, as we told you earlier in the interior review, for example, that the other manufacturers, like Tesla, goes all animal-free on the interior. That's way more looking forward, for example. The other manufacturers have better offerings there. And now to our final consumption and real-world range test for today. So we have driven the 106 kilowatt-hour battery, the big one, with the Q8 e-tron 55 and also with the SQ8 Sportback e-tron. The first consumption with the normal Q8 e-tron was about 24 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. Here with the SQ8 e-tron a little bit higher, 25 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That means both round about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour for our US guys. So the real world range then is 440 kilometers for the Q8 e-tron or 420 kilometers for the SQ8 e-tron. That means 270 miles for the Q8 e-tron or around 260 miles for the SQ8 e-tron. Overall, an acceptable result. The consumption is still quite high, also if you compare it to the competition. However, now, since the battery is so large, it evens that one out. So no, it is not the most efficient one in the segment, but it is the one that also offers one of the best driving experiences in the segment as for comfort and fun and this combination indeed. So you have to think about which one would be more important to you.
The Audi Q2 is on the one hand kinda dated and does not offer anything fancy or new, but it simply delivers as a city SUV and you can make a good deal for a small premium SUV in comparison. Although it is the smallest, it already offers decent seating comfort. The Q3 could be a sweet spot if you want something more modern, but don't want to get too big. The Q4 is the sibling of the VW ID.4 and honestly doesn't feel so much Audi-like like the others, and for the price it also doesn't offer anything special where it could be better than the Tesla Model Y. The Audi Q5 is very successful, meanwhile lags a little behind especially to the Mercedes GLC however. The Audi Q6 e-tron is the best EV in the lineup yet, as for all the electric facts and figures, and is more or less a new Porsche Macan EV, since these two vehicles were developed alongside. The Audi Q7 and Q8 are the classic big SUVs, and they simply deliver the comfort and the classiness you expect from them. If Q7 or Q8, well, that's a question just if you need the extra space in the Q7. Other than that, they are pretty similar. The Q8 e-tron is a lovely vehicle in design and in the drive, but it just lacks the efficiency and the range you can expect from a large electric SUV. The Q6 will push it from the market unless you get a special deal for the Q8 e-tron. What would I do? If I want a small SUV that suits parking spots, I'd honestly take a Q2 to have the Audi experience already in a small vehicle, or then directly go for a Q8 to get the comfort and the exclusive experience. However, in many markets the Q8 is not available without animal skin seats, so that's also then a tough choice. However, just from driving, so my choice would be at the end of the spectrum each this time. What about you? Tell me in the comments and also check out more comparison reviews.